We are coming to you live from the broadcasting house here in Nairobi, Kenya. This is Good Morning Kenya. Thank you so much for choosing KBC Channel 1. Now, my name is Ram Maguko, and as always, the crew is here to kickstart your morning on a high note. We have a lot in store for you in this fine broadcast, including details concerning the Devolution Conference, the 8th of its kind. 10 years of devolution. How far are we as a country? Well, in this fine morning, we shall talk about matters concerning devolution and other stories making headlines. I shall be with the CS Wilson, Honorable Wilson Sosion, together with Chris Owala, that is the Executive Director of the Community Initiative Action Group Kenya, joining me in this fine Wednesday morning. We shall also dissect what is trending and what is making headlines in our dailies. I have copies of the different dailies on my table. But first things first, introducing the crew. Vivian.
Good morning, Ram, and a very good morning to each and every one of you who is tuned in on the 16th day of August. My word to you today is that you should do today what needs to be done, as you remember that happiness is among the very few things that multiply when shared. Well, also today on the program, or rather we should be expecting a link on what is happening or the ongoings at the National Music Festival that is happening in Nyeri. Be sure to tune in for that. Before we get into other matters that we have right here on the show, Ray is also here. Ray, good morning.
Good morning. Yes, indeed, there's a lot of action and activity there down in Eldoret, Uasin Gishu County, that is playing host to the Devolution Conference there. We had a few leaders even engage in sports to just try and break the ice as well as build teamwork. Well, we'll be keeping tabs on that. Remember, it enters the formal stage, which is today, and KBC Channel 1 is going to be bringing you that particular broadcast. And also looking at stories that have been making headlines, there's been a push and pull. Did government reintroduce subsidies when it comes to the Petroleum Development Levy? Or is this just the EPRA, that is the regulatory authority, tapping into the levy to cushion Kenyans from the high cost of fuel? These details will be coming up in the course of In the Headlines, and also to remind you that our website is ever open for your perusal with a lot therein, including business, sports, and what is happening across the world. But first things first, let's bring you up to speed with those stories that have been making headlines in the last 12 hours. I'm Regina Manyara, and you're watching In the Headlines right here. Now, President William Ruto has warned against forest encroachment and irresponsible logging of trees. Speaking while in Njoro when he joined mourners during the funeral service of David Chepkwony, husband to Njoro Member of Parliament Charity Kathambi, President Ruto said that the lifting of the moratorium on logging only allows logging of mature trees which were decaying in the forest. Timothy Kipnusu with the details.
President William Ruto on Tuesday joined mourners for the funeral service of the husband to Njoro MP Charity Kathambi, David Chepkwony. It is here that the head of state read a riot act to those involved in the irresponsible logging of trees.
Tukisema ya kwamba tutaendelea na kuharvest products ya misitu, haimaanishi ya kwamba ati misitu itakuwa inakatwa kiholela. Hiyo haiwezi kufanyika. So kama kuna mtu alikuwa anafikiri sasa iko license ya kwenda kukata miti left, right and center, utakutana na sisi.
Ruto was accompanied by his deputy Rigathi Gachagua. At the same time, clarified the government only allow the harvesting of mature trees that are decaying in the forests.
So nataka tukubaliane hivyo, ndio tuhakikisha kwamba tunalinda maslahi ya wananchi, lakini vile vile tunalinda mambo yetu ya mazingira, kwa sababu tusipolinda mazingira hata kupata chakula itakuwa kazi ngumu.
President Ruto at the same time gave a one-year ultimatum to the Lands Ministry to work on a modality that will lead to the lifting of the caveats imposed on the land in some parts of Nakuru County for over a decade.
Ile matatizo ambayo tulikuwa nayo ya mambo ya misitu, ile caveat ilikuwa imewekwa, tumeiondoa ili tuendelee na kupata products kutoka kwa misitu yetu, lakini kwa njia ya taratibu na njia ya uangalifu.
The head of state, who eulogized Chepkwony as a hard-working, friendly and focused man who was driven by a genuine concern for the community, said his administration plans to ensure the country attains universal health coverage.
Na ametuonyesha ya kwamba sio lazima ukue profesa ama ujulikane ili uweze kufanya mambo makubwa.
Mimi ningetaka nipongeze watu wa Joro kwa kumchagua huyu kiongozi wetu ambaye ni shujaa. Ameonyesha umaarufu sana kwa uongozi wake.
Wanawake wakisimama wakionyesha barabara, hii siasa mingi itakuja kupotea na ukabila utaisha.
Na kama mama aliyechaguliwa kupata mume ambaye anaweza kushika mkono kwa kaunti ambayo haujazaliwa sio jambo rahisi.
May his soul continue resting in peace. Charity Kadhambi is among the 4 members of parliament who were elected during the August 2022 elections. And remember, Nakuru County there is leading in the number of women who have been elected in elective politics since the promulgation of the 2010 constitution, appointed to where we have come, especially within the devolved units. Women inclusion. This is one of the conversations that is going to be taking place during the Devolution conference as it enters day 2 today. Now, questions surrounding the legality of the new bipartisan talks will be answered tomorrow. Actually, that tomorrow happens to be today, where Majority Leader of the National Assembly, Kimani Ichung'wah, and his minority counterpart Opiyo Wandayi officially submitted a motion seeking to legalize the talks between Azimio and Kenya Kwanza. As Abdiaziz Hashim reports, the Speaker, Moses Wetangula, has scheduled the debate for the motion for today afternoon.
24 hours after the dialogue team led by Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka of Azimio and his counterpart of Kenya Kwanza Kimani Ichung'wah resolved to file a motion at the Augusta House seeking to legalize the talks. The motion, read by the majority leader and co-sponsored by his minority counterpart Opiyo Wandayi, has stipulated the terms for talks that will run for the next 60 days as stipulated in the motion.
The National Dialogue Committee shall report to the leadership of Kenya Kwanza and Azimio coalitions within 60 days, and after that submit its report to Parliament.
Because it reminds us that every other time this country has basically gone to the precipice, has reached the cliff, it has always pulled back.
Key among them is when the new bipartisan team finalizes its report, it will submit to the leaders of Azimio and Kenya Kwanza as well as Parliament for adoption. Moreover, the committee has resolved to receive memorandums from the public, professional bodies and non-governmental organizations for review and consideration. The motion submitted by the two this afternoon before the members of Parliament will be up for debate on Wednesday afternoon, where the legislators will have their say over the motion.
That motion will be allocated time tomorrow, immediately after your engagement with the Minister for Tourism. It will be the next item on agenda.
Meanwhile, ODM leader Raila Odinga and Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka have maintained they are not interested in any form of power-sharing deals with the Kenya Kwanza alliance.
Tumesema mpaka hii kamati ya Kalonzo na Ichung'wah iangalie ili kila Mkenya awe ni Mkenya, anatambulika kama Mkenya, ana haki kama Mkenya.
And I've told even our friends on the other side, we are not here to waste time. We are not to play games.
This comes as the Attorney General Justin Muturi maintains that whatever the two parties will agree upon, his office will consider their resolutions keenly and ensure they remain within the boundaries of the Constitution.
Zote tuwajibike na tuhakikishe kwamba yale ambayo tunayafanya ni ya kufaidi nchi nzima na wenyeji wake.
All eyes are now on Parliament, with the dialogue team expected to reconvene next Monday at the Bomas of Kenya.
And that will be broadcast live. Now, Data Protection Commissioner Immaculate Kisait now says the data firm WorldCoin ignored orders to cease data collection from her office. Appearing before the National Assembly ICT Committee, Data Commissioner Immaculate Kisait told members of Parliament that WorldCoin irregularly mined data from Kenyans. Kisait was, however, at pains to explain why an initial certificate of registration was issued to a company whose activities were banned in America.
The start of devolution in 2013 was seen as the silver bullet in delivering services closer to the people and spurring development at the grassroots level. However,
parliamentary investigations on operations of foreign data company WorldCoin continued, with Data Protection Commissioner Immaculate Kisait taking the hot seat before the National Assembly ICT Committee.
As the Data Commissioner, do you understand the real intentions of WorldCoin? Why was WorldCoin offering money to people?
Do you think that you exercised reasonable care of duty as an officer of government in how you handled this matter?
When we discovered the processes of WorldCoin and collecting data, we did write to them and asked them, what is your legal basis? One of the things they said, it's a contractual obligation between them and their customers.
The data commissioner claiming that WorldCoin was issued with a letter of cease and desist in May 2023, but went on to carry out its data capture activities that entailed scanning irises of those who turned up for registration in exchange for crypto tokens. The lawmakers took Kisait to task for allowing the registration of WorldCoin company, thus exposing Kenyans.
Talking about legitimacy, they were operating under legitimacy. The place of operation is a government facility. That needs clarification. So who is fooling who? Are you saying that the government knew, the government didn't know, you knew, you gave the letter, you gave the response?
If WorldCoin, without lawful excuse, discloses personal data of Kenyan users in a manner that is incompatible with the purpose for which data has been collected, how does the Kenyan government enforce justice to the right to right the wrong? How will it do that process?
The information we have with us, they relied on consent and contractual obligation.
A multi-agency investigation is ongoing, with the conclusion expected within 90 days. According to Kisait, investigations done thus far have not ascertained the number of Kenyans whose data was captured by the WorldCoin project. Interior Cabinet Secretary Professor Kithure Kindiki and his information counterpart Eliud Owalo are also expected to appear before Parliament to explain how and why WorldCoin was allowed in the country.
That ICT is going to be driving the fourth industrial revolution, well, you need to remember and keep in mind that data is king. Now, a decade since the advent of devolution, the fruits in this form of governance are beginning to be felt, with the majority of Kenyans enjoying access to government services. However, corruption remains a major bottleneck in efficient service delivery. Several county bosses have found themselves in court on allegations of looting from public coffers. As the county and national government administrators convene in Eldoret for the annual Devolution conference, Nancy Okwara examines the corruption threat that threatens a challenge in full the implementation of devolution.
Of devolution a decade ago, so 14 functions moved from the national government to the county level, as articulated in 4th schedule of the Constitution. This was aimed at ensuring services were closer to the people and open development in areas that had previously suffered resource marginalization.
We have really made progress, and the focus now should be on where next for devolution.
So it's an opportunity to review, it's an opportunity to critique what devolution has been able to achieve and what it has not been able to achieve, and now setting the pace for the next 10 years on what devolution should do.
Among the functions distributed to the county governments were county health services, agriculture, cultural activities, public entertainment and amenities, county transport, animal control and welfare, trade development and regulations, county planning and development, pre-primary education, village polytechnics, county public works, control of drugs and pornography, environmental conservation on specific national government policies, and coordination and participation of communities in governance.
What we are doing as a government is doubling our efforts in revenue collection, and we are doing that by closing all the loopholes.
The 14 functions as spelled out in the Constitution have so far been funded to a tune of 3.6 trillion shillings. And this begs the question, have the county governments effectively absorbed the funds? Opinion remains divided.
Still fighting with the national government on the rollout of the other devolved functions. There are functions worth about 275 billion, which are still lying in the national government. This year, the counties have been given about 385 billion. So with the 275 billion plus 385, that will be about 600 billion going to the counties, which will do a lot of things that will be done in our counties. So we expect the government to come forward with a plan of rollout of the remaining functions that are supposed to be taken to the county governments.
While proponents of devolution argue that the transfer of functions has led to an improvement of service delivery, others have faulted county bosses for not always factoring in projects of interest to the electorate. The point of departure mainly touching on the implementation of the county health services, transport, agriculture, betting and liquor regulations.
These instructions are so clear. They must work with counties, especially on shared responsibility, like for example in agriculture, in health, in water. We must work together because we can't work in silos. National government at that level and ourselves at this level.
The national government has always been at crossroads with counties over the transfer of resources commensurate with the functions allocated, as well as the personnel to ensure efficiency. A case in point being the cause by some healthcare unions for some of the functions to be transferred back to the national government, including employment of healthcare workers.
Sometimes the unions of healthcare professionals would not understand that, and they keep trying to claw back the health function back to the national government. And I think it's about time that we had a sitting and understand the reason why this was devolved in the first place.
In the 2023 Division of Revenue Bill that President William Ruto sent it to in April, the counties received 385 billion shillings as an equitable share of revenue, up from the 370 billion shillings. This year's devolution conference will no doubt reawaken the debate as the government seeks to fully implement the devolution as envisaged by the drafters of the Constitution and endorsed by Kenyans in the 2010 referendum.
In our precursor for the coverage of the devolution conference, these issues were highly articulated. The issue of whether the devolved functions, the funds did indeed follow the devolved functions within the county governments, and if indeed the national government is still, as a big brother, holding out when it comes to the mandate that, to devolve, to actually finance or have the funds that are required for the units to continue offering service delivery within this devolved units. So Gladys Mungai there, as well as Nancy Okware, have been, just detailing it out, and we'll have Kamcha Menza on ground, given that today we're expecting none other than the chief guest, that is President William Ruto, to officially open the national devolution, the annual devolution conference that is taking place in Eldoret, Uasin Gishu County, and also in Nyeri County on the very same day, which is today. We're going to have the music festivals. So I do not know if you participated in the music festivals, but what you need to know, it is fun, packed, and also an opportunity to showcase talent. Now, talking about talent, young entrepreneurs will now have an opportunity to participate in a business TV reality show to showcase their innovations, pitch business ideas for funding, as well as undergo skills development training. The reality show, dubbed Eagle's Nest, is a brainchild of 5 government entities. It is aimed at providing opportunities for youth to showcase their innovation and be equipped with necessary skills and networks for the sustainability of their businesses.
The Eagle's Nest program will provide a platform for youth aged between 18 to 35 years to showcase their innovation, share knowledge, learn and connect with potential investors. State Department for Labor Skills Development Principal Secretary Geoffrey Kaituko, speaking at a meeting on the Eagle's Nest program, said the program will provide an opportunity for youth to learn and network and be trained on ways to ensure their businesses survive beyond the first year of establishment.
Time has come 60 years after independence for us to shift the way we think and educate and train young people in this country. Because the old model is no longer working.
Youth Enterprise Development Fund Chief Executive Officer Josiah Moriaso called upon the youth to embrace skills development trainings as their future.
We are trying to craft a program that seeks to reduce the unemployment among the young people of this country.
500 youth who will qualify in the initial stages will undergo a 28-day training at the Manu Chandaria Innovation Hub at Kenyatta University. The Kenya Broadcasting Corporation Acting Managing Director Samuel Maina said the program is in line with KBC's mandate to inform, entertain and educate, and offers an opportunity for youth-centered fresh content as well as a platform for young people to engage in self-employment and entrepreneurship.
We connect them to the market. The market is the investors and even sometimes government who would like to support the younger people, but they don't know where they are.
The reality show is a partnership between the Ministry of Labour and Social Protection, the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation, Kenyatta University, Kenya Industrial Property Institute, and the Youth Enterprise Development Fund. This program has been termed timely as it seeks to give the youth a chance to put into practice their talents and skills in different job markets.
And the goal of this program is to empower the youth so that they can become employable and productive.
This comes as a wake-up call to youth to take part in this program. Who will be the next millionaire in town? Only time will tell. Reporting for KBC Channel 1, I am Frederick Parsayo.
Now, the Catholic Church has raised concerns over what they term as the reintroduction of comprehensive sex education, CSC, in basic education learning material under the new competency-based curriculum, CBC. Now, speaking at the 8th edition of the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops Commission for Education and Religious Education for Schools, school principals, the Catholic bishops said that the clergy, as they have called on the Ministry of Education to move with speed and withdraw the said books from the market, and also have a review of the subject incorporating all education stakeholders.
A child who is minor, even below age of 13, and is being sexualized through materials, you not be able as a parent to tell that child that this content is not good for you. Because already the teacher is saying it is good, and even to the point that this child is also told to practice. We are going to have more even rape cases in our schools, in our society, because of sexualizing our children.
Universities have been negatively impacted. Some only getting less than 10 students, less than 100 students. Taxpayers, parents should get equal opportunity to access public resources.
Now to the corridors of justice, where drama ensued at the Kakamega Law Court after a woman whose son was bitten by his teachers and his private parts bruised caused drama in the courtroom, forcing the court to suspend its sitting. This as an officer working for the court has been charged at a Milimani court for obtaining money by false pretense and conspiring to defraud a client of 26 million shillings. This and more from the corridors of justice.
Kakamega Law Court Tuesday turned into a theatre room. This is after an angry mother turned wild at the court over her son's case. The 45-year-old mother's emotional act when the lawyers of the teachers presented what she termed as strange papers in court. Kakamega Senior Resident Magistrate Vena Amboko said Caroline Kamali, the mother of the assaulted minor, needs to be emotionally stable before testifying in court. At Nairobi's Milimani Law Court, David Chegemboche, an officer working for the court, appeared before Senior Principal Magistrate Ben Ehobi for defrauding.
There is no objection to bond terms we pray for substantial. Even if he's held at GK, I believe there is a treatment facility as opposed to even a police station.
He is accused of pretending he was in the conduct of non-existing civil case at the Milimani Law Court.
Sufficient bond terms or bail terms. In the meanwhile, he'll be remanded at Capital Hill Police Station until tomorrow. Once we have the report, we'll make that determination on bond and bail. Very much we'll come back to that.
A pre-bail report will be availed Wednesday. Meanwhile, a Makadara Law Court has charged a suspect who was arrested at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport en route to Somalia. Abdisalan Hassan Hussein is accused of defrauding Hassan Abdullahi Sheikh 3.6 million Kenya shillings by pretending he was in a position to surrender go down at Eastleigh, Nairobi County.
I raised the issue of the accused being likely to travel out of the country or abscond. I've therefore added another condition that his passport will be deposited in court until the completion of the case.
Elsewhere, Nyamira Court has reordered a mental assessment of a former informal transport service chairman arrested after he had been on the run over the death of a motorcyclist.
Now off to business, where the government says it has not reintroduced fuel subsidies on petroleum products, contrary to widespread media reports. The Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority says its decision to tap the Petroleum Development Levy was to stabilize pump prices and cushion Kenyans from further spikes in the cost of living. EPRA Director General Daniel Kiptoo says without tapping the fund, a litre of super petrol would have retailed at 202 shillings, while 183 shillings and 26 cents per litre of diesel, as well as 175 shillings and 22 cents for a litre of kerosene.
The media has been awash with reports that the government has reverted back to the fuel subsidy program, which was removed early this year. This follows the monthly energy prices report by the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority that said that the government has been forced to tap into the fuel development levy to stabilize the local retail price of the commodity. IPRA Director General Daniel Kiptoo says the reports are untrue. Kiptoo says IPRA has resulted in using fuel stabilization through the Petroleum Development Levy to anchor fuel prices for the month of August and September. Kiptoo says this is the fund that the government tapped to stabilize pump prices and cushion Kenyans from the high cost of living. IPRA says the fund is a stopgap measure to deal with the runaway fuel prices and tame inflation. Last night, IPRA announced that the price of fuel will remain unchanged despite a surge in the cost of crude in the international market. According to IPRA, the average cost of imported fuel increased in July by 64% for super petrol, 4.29% for diesel, and 7.41% for kerosene. Without the subsidy, the prices of super petrol would have gone up by 7 shillings and 33 cents per litre for super petrol, 3 shillings and 59 cents per litre for diesel, and 5 shillings and 74 cents per litre for kerosene. Kiptoo explained that oil marketers will be reimbursed for the differences from the Petroleum Development Fund.
Indeed, the social media platform was awash with that particular conversation. We'll be keeping tabs on that. Remember, that particular price review is going to inform how much you're going to be spending at the pump for the next 30 days, commencing yesterday, which was the 15th. Now, the government has picked the Cooperative Bank to operationalize the direct settlement system at the Nairobi Coffee Exchange. The system, modeled along the Central Depository and Settlement Corporation, will help in expediting payments to coffee farmers and producers. Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has said the payment system will hasten the release of farmers' earnings, and it's among raft of reforms that include reintroduction of the coffee board that will regulate the subsector.
Plans to develop and actualize a seamless payment system at the Nairobi Coffee Exchange have been on the card for some time now as part of the reforms being undertaken in the coffee value chain. Under the new platform, farmers will receive their sale proceeds under the direct settlement system, a departure from the current system where payment services are handled by multiple players. The direct settlement system will see farmers receive prompt payment for their cherry sold at the auction.
Capital Markets has approved the Cooperative Bank of Kenya, which is a duly licensed commercial bank regulated by Central Bank of Kenya, to provide DSS.
Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua says the subsector is riddled with underhand dealings that may force the government to set aside funds to mitigate against potential losses due to missed bean sales.
We will not give in to blackmail. These brokers and cartels will not hold the government at ransom. No, it will not happen. It will not happen. And we are prepared to put a fund aside to cushion the farmer in this period when we are struggling with these people.
Speaking during the reopening of the Nairobi Coffee Exchange that has been on a 3-month recess, the Deputy President said a minimum guarantee price for coffee will be formulated to protect farmers from fluctuating coffee prices and exploitation.
Mulisema munataka Coffee Board of Kenya ile nasimamia wakulima irudi. Si ndio tulikubaliana? Tulisema tufufue KPCU. Ndio isaidie wakulima mambo ya milling so that we can avoid milling losses na ukora mambo ya grading.
This comes at a time when the Capital Markets Authority has cleared 3 additional cooperatives to trade at the floor of the Nairobi Coffee Exchange.
So it will be painful for everybody. For the marketers, it will be painful. For rogue society officials, it will be painful. But all that pain is worth it. The final beneficiary of that pain is the coffee farmer in the Republic of Kenya.
The Coffee Research Institute will also get additional funding for seed development and extension services in a bid to increase production per bush from 3 kilos to 30 kilos in the short term.
Now to sports. The second batch of the Kenya national athletics team that will fly the country's flag at the World Athletics Champions has headed to Budapest yesterday ahead of the championship set to begin this Saturday. The second batch consists of a group of 38 athletes and officials, with the 2 remaining groups of Team Kenya set to leave on the 17th and 22nd respectively. The 9-day championship will begin with the final of the men 20-kilometer race walk on Saturday, and will also have the 10,000 meters women final held on the same day. On the last day of the global event, the finals of the men's marathon, the men's 5,000 meters and the women's 800 meters, women 3,000 meters steeplechase and the men's javelin throw will be held. At the last World Championship in Oregon 2022, Kenya managed to collect just 10 medals, 2 gold, 5 silver, 3 bronze, and finishing 4th overall behind USA, Ethiopia and Jamaica. Well, that puts a cap effectively on Malta's news. Our website is open for your perusal, www.kbc.co.ke. Now we have the conversation in regard to where we are as far as devolution matters are concerned, given that today we're expecting President William Ruto to officially open the annual devolution conference that is currently taking place in Eldoret, Western Gishu County. And also we're going to be joining some of our colleagues who are also posted in Nyeri County for the ongoing National Music Festival. So now I leave in the able hands of my colleague, Ram Aguko, for the day's conversation. Do keep it right here. I'm Regina Manyara.
I'll be looking for kuna
naambia tu mafans wangu watarajie mema na watuombe kama Team Kenya because hakuna penye tutaweza bila Mungu. Sasa naambia tu mafans wangu wote watuombe, tukienda pale turudi na medali, kila mmoja akuja na medal, kwa sababu unajua hatuwezi kuja wote na medals, lakini ile yenye Mungu atatupea pale, hiyo ndio tunashukuru.
Live from Broadcasting House, Nairobi, Kenya. This is KBC English Service.
Welcome to B-Time Show, the very best of the 80s and 90s. Me, John Korani, JK.
Timeless music hits across the decades.
This is the place to be after you've had a tough day. Here we celebrate love and life.
Just watch. The sound of KBC English Service.
I'm your host Caroline Wangishi, Carol Gatata Moshero.
My name is Geoffrey Mongai B.
News, information and entertainment. KBC English Service, Kenya's official national radio.
She hasn't just taken this title. She's absolutely obliterated the whole field. 3:52.96.
It's a big stage, big names and big expectations. An immersive celebration of athleticism. More than 2,000 athletes from over 200 countries will compete in 49 events. Drawing inspiration from past memorable outings, Team Kenya is looking ahead for a remarkable feat in the forthcoming World Athletics Championship in Budapest, Hungary, in Central Europe. Witness the wonders from Budapest, Hungary on 19th through to the 27th of August, live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1. KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
What a surprise, Mr. Arturo. I thought you had retired from your businesses.
With my businesses, it is possible, but not with my life.
Do you really think that woman actually has any idea who the real father of her son is? Come on, my goodness.
Yes, of course she does. In fact, I'm surprised that you don't know about it, Amparo.
You can think whatever you want, Amparo. Anything I say, you're going to doubt anything I tell you about Carolina Tinojo. Whatever I say.
Something's wrong there. My leg's hurting.
Okay, come. Let's take a look. Come on, I'll take you. Come on. Just relax now.
Ingo FM fans in Kakamega, are you ready? Ingo FM and Y254 have organized a Meet the Fans tour on 25th and 26th August 2023. On Friday, 25th August, join us at Butere Boys High School, where the Baraza Foundation has organized sports activities including a football match pitting Kakamega Homeboys versus Butere combined. In the evening, join us as we witness the crowning of Mr. and Miss Butere live from Charlie's 037 Resort. These events will be covered by Y254 and Ingo FM. On Saturday, 26th August, our team shall visit Noah Yale Children's Home, where we shall donate dignity packs. And the climax of our Kakamega tour will be the launch of Ingo FM Mashabi Club at Bondeni Primary School. Don't miss out. All are welcome.
All right, we continue with this morning show right here on Good Morning Kenya. Thank you so much for sticking with us. Now, even before we get into the nitty-gritties of this morning conversation, I want us to take a look at what's happening on our road so that you can best make a decision on which road to follow as you head over to work. Now, with me, I have this smart screen, and I would like to take a look at what's happening in Nairobi. Now, let me refresh that so that you can have the latest in terms of roads. Now, if you are coming into the CBD and the route that you would like to follow is Thika Road, it is a smooth sail all the way from TRM coming past GSU and KCA University. But as you head over to Muthaiga, there is some traffic snail up from Muthaiga near the Utalii College. From Utalii, traffic begins to slow down as you head over past Muthaiga. It opens up after Pangani. So that is the route. Thika Road is looking good, except towards the areas of Muthaiga as we speak. Moving on to Kangundo Road. Those who are along Kangundo Road, it's a smooth sail except in certain junctions, including Kayole Junction, which has some slight traffic snail up. And as you head over towards the Bermuda Bar, which is near K Mall, Komarok, it begins to open up. It's a smooth sail along Kangundo Road, but it begins to have some slight traffic build-up as you head over towards the roundabout that connects the Outer Ring Road with the Kangundo Road. Now that is where we have some slight traffic. Well, moving forward, we still have other areas that we need to look at. For example, Mombasa Road. How is Mombasa Road? What Mombasa Road, where are you at? I'm seeing some... Actually, it's very smooth this morning. Mombasa Road looks good. Coming all the way from, this is Imara Daima. All right, it looks okay, not badly off. But there is, all right, there's some slight traffic on the service lane near Imara Daima. There's some slight traffic along the service lane, but it begins to open up. I believe this is because of that junction that is near Masai Road and Samia Park. That's where traffic begins to open up. From that area, moving on to Ole Sereni, it is looking all good past Capital Center, heading over towards Nyayo Stadium. It doesn't look that bad. It's not that bad indeed. Heading over towards the CBD and you will be home free. Those who are using Mombasa Road, you're good to go as that now. Remember, it is currently 12 minutes past 7 a.m. and our roads are looking clean and clear. Now, I would like to head over to Eldoret. Now, why am I taking a look at Eldoret this morning? The reason is we have the Devolution conference that is taking place in Eldoret. Has it affected the roads? Has it affected traffic in Eldoret? Let's take a look. Well, looking at how things are, I'm looking at the road coming from the Eldoret, where we have the junction connecting. This is Hillside. From Hillside coming towards Eldoret Club, we are having some smooth traffic. There's not much traffic moving on from this area towards Medihill Hospital. Nothing much coming towards Rupa Mills and the areas connected to the Huduma Center in Eldoret. They're all looking good, all looking free as at now. It means that people have already settled down, because we shall be getting a link from Eldoret in a bit this fine morning as we take a look at how things are on the ground. Traffic looks good. All the way from Kahoya Market to Nyathiru, past Kipkaren Market, traffic looks A-OK. Now that is Eldoret town as we speak in this fine morning. Now, moving on from traffic, well, at least now you can be able to know what route to take this fine Wednesday morning. Now, first things first, I would like to introduce my guest joining us today. Even as we talk about matters concerning traffic, remember, we shall keep you updated later on. Let me remove this background here, because this is the show. This is the show. Joining me this morning, ladies and gentlemen, as we discuss matters concerning the nation and what is making headlines in the particular dailies that we have. Next to me, on my immediate left, I'm with Honorable Wilson Sosion. Karibu sana.
Thank you. Good morning, our viewers.
Good morning, Mheshimiwa. And to my far left, I'm with Chris Owala, who is the Executive Director of Community Initiative Action Group Kenya. Karibu sana, Mr. Chris.
Thank you, Rama.
It's a pleasure having you.
You too.
Now remember to engage with us. The hashtag, as always, is Good Morning Kenya. My handle is @Ram Aguko. at KBC Channel 1 is the station handle. Let's talk about what is trending in our dailies. With me, I have a copy of different papers. First things first, the Daily Nation. Now, on the front page of this paper, reality check. With initial strategy seemingly failing to tame runaway fuel costs, the President, Honorable William Ruto's administration has been forced to restore the compensation to oil dealers to cushion customers from higher pump prices, but to navigate the political backlash after condemnation of subsidies. Officials have another name for the intervention, even as traders are set to be squeezed even further. Now, this is in regards to what is happening at our pump areas. The fuel is the conversation of the day. Under pressure of rising pump prices, the government is forced to intervene, but insists that the relief is stabilization, not the subsidy official had discredited. The subsidy officials had discredited it. What is that all about? In matters concerning the economy, still on this particular area, CEOs downgrade their business outlook this quarter as pressure from new taxes and toxic politics dampens the optimism felt 3 months ago. For Mitumba traders, how has it affected them? Well, importers of second-hand clothing should brace for a 25% duty on imported garments as the government seeks to revive the textile industry and promote local products. The housing levy, also a concern, also featured on this particular paper here. KRA says that all regular cash allowances, including car and travel perks, will be factored in gross pay when calculating an employee's monthly deduction. And finally, concerning power, no respite for households and businesses facing a 1.7% increment in electricity bills after fuel energy charges rose to 4 shilling and 46 cents per unit from the 4 shilling and 2 cents that was there last month. That is concerning fuel. And it's on this point that I would like to engage my guest this morning. The clash between new policies and prevailing situation. Honorable Sosion, fuel is still an issue that we are grappling with as a country. Will there be an end to this particular problem?
Of course, there'll have to be an end. And the challenge of fuel is not only unique to Kenya. It's a global, and the measures that government has put in place to stabilize without taking the route of subsidies has worked for a while, and it will continue working. What you are seeing really is not subsidies. Subsidies is a different component altogether. That is stabilizing to ensure that the market access to fuel is stabilized, and that is an intervention measure from government. So I believe with time the fuel market prices will eventually stabilize. And remember, this is not always managed internally. It's a global. It's a global issue. And mitigating the high prices is key to containing the spiral effect in the cost of living in other goods. Yeah.
And I'm looking at what the papers are saying also. The government has rejected the characterization of Monday's pump fuel intervention as a subsidy.
It is not a subsidy.
Preferring to describe it as a compensation to oil markets.
It is not a subsidy. There's a big difference between subsidy and the funds that have been injected to stabilize.
All right, Mr. Chris, do you believe in the same?
I don't agree with Mheshimiwa and the government there, because you see, just only changing of the names, it's the same thing, because the government is using the same taxes.
Is it that are we getting the same results, the same work formula, but we are using different names?
We might not be getting the same impact, but we are using the same name, but different, the same thing, but different names. Because it's the same government, it's the same formula, the same approach. Because you still use the tax to do that.
Help me understand why do you believe that it is just a change in the name?
Because subsidy, the way Mheshimiwa is saying, is the money you use. You are stabilizing on the importers, the oil importers. You are paying them so that what they give to the Kenyans is on a reduced price. So I don't think I think the government doesn't want just to accept, but the same thing, same concept.
I'm looking at what the EPRA Director General Daniel Kiptoo said concerning this particular intervention. He said that it will consume half of the funds currently available in the PDF. Is this going to have ripple effects now? Looking at how prices are in the country, should we brace ourselves for tough times? Still on you, Mr. Chris.
I think we are on for a tough time. Whichever way we go.
Could it be tougher?
Tougher. It is. We must pull up. We must tighten our belt. Where we are going, it's not good enough for Kenyans. The government ran away from what they were doing before in a more structured way. But we are in it. When you increase the taxes, that's what becomes.
But then, Honorable Sossion, why do you believe this is not a subsidy?
No, you've had the explanation from EPRA and even the sources of funding they're using. So really, it is not subsidy, and the government has stated very clearly that it's not going to subsidize consumption. And the intervention by EPRA is completely different. It is not subsidy, and government has not taken the route of subsidy, and there will be no subsidies. And however much you try to baptize, because you cannot create a distinction with what EPRA intervention that EPRA has taken to contain. The fact remains, government is not taking the route of subsidies. That route has not been opened.
But if EPRA Director General Daniel Kiptoo is quoted here in this particular paper as somebody who was unable to explain how this change in terminology came about.
No, there's no change in terminology.
Put into question even
the truth is, it's not change in terminology. It's you people who are trying to give it a change in terminology. It's not change in terminology. And EPRA is working within its mandate to contain and regulate the fuel prices. That's what it's done. You've not had Treasury saying it's releasing money to subsidize. That has not been done. And so trying to create some drama that the government has gone back to subsidy is not going to change the situation. And those are reserves within the ambit of IPRA to do that, and they've done it. And they will continue doing it. That is a mandate.
Yes.
To contain the high fuel prices. That's a mandate.
All right.
But you are aware, that even the resources that are used by IPRA is from our taxes. It's all from Treasury.
You've not had Treasury saying it has released money to do the same. And you've had the sources that IPRA has stated. So there is absolutely nothing wrong with IPRA performing its mandate to contain prices. But that does not mean government has announced the resumption of subsidies. You've not had the president, you've not had Treasury, so really you don't need to create a lot of stories about this and create gloom that the cost of living and things are going to be difficult. That is creating unnecessary tension. Economic challenges are there, they're ordinary, it doesn't spare anybody. But the containment measures of economic recovery remain on course. And Kenya Kwanza administration is not going to be deviated by the different emotional description that we are getting around the country. The government will continue focusing, protecting and ensuring that the cost of living is brought down. You've not checked, you've not seen the front page of Nation. The front page of Nation. Look at the other end. it is also very important news that the general cost of living is coming down from statistics that we are receiving. A lot of food prices are coming down because of the impact of fertilizers. Don't look at one side and pick it from some corner inside the newspapers when there is a big front page story about the good news of reduction of the cost of living, particularly a lot of food commodities. It will never be that all goods available in the market will all come down. It will keep varying. Some will go up, others will go down. That's the reality of an economy. And an economy cannot be controlled artificially. It's controlled by the market forces, both intra forces within the country and the global interacting forces, and that's the truth. So you should be able to tell Kenyans here that there is good news. A lot of data has come out. The cost of living, food is now available at the lowest cost. It's important you do it rather than picking a story right inside in the middle of which is not even very significant.
All right, I want to take a short break, Mheshimiwa, and then we'll be back to discuss exactly what this is.
And the cost of living is a long debate.
Yeah, it's a long debate.
I'm sure.
No, but don't cherry pick. Don't cherry pick. Don't cherry pick. No.
We will be back in a bit. Let's take a short break and then we shall continue with what is making headlines in this fine Wednesday morning.
We promise and we know we're going to do something. And I do feel for this time round, I don't think it's going to be the only gold medal. Maybe we're going to sweep. Who never knows? So no one knows what's going to happen. But yeah, we do feel like we will come back home with something heavy.
Vijana chapakazi wenye nguvu za ziada.
My youth, uko na talent ya kusing, spoken word, kucompose jingles ama any other unexploited artistic talent. Gava through Ministry of Information, Communication and the Digital Economy na KBC sasa wamekama up na project ya kupromote usanii called Studio Mashinani. Hizi ni studios ziko grassroots and they are fitted with high quality state-of-the-art equipment where you can produce quality audio and video music content for free. What's more, wanaoffer mentorship na talanta yako itakuwa promoted on KBC Channel 1 TV, Y254 na radio stations za KBC. Tembelea Studio Mashinani huko Comarox, Langata, Sauti House Mombasa, Kirwara huko Gatanga, Kitui next to Manyanyoni Chiefs Camp na Kisumu City wako hapo KBC station. Usilalie talent. This is your chance to commercialize and popularize your talent through Studio Mashinani.
Kwa sitaki kuongeza ugomvi kati yako na mkewe.
My word is final and she knows that.
Nikifa utapumzika.
Mbona unasema hivyo ma?
Mtipili mimi sikipendi hichi chumba na niliapa kuwa sitawahi kukiingia tena.
Uweza pigania ndoa yako. Mwishowe siri zote zitatoboka tu.
Yaani kitu wewe nikuulize, wamdai ule? Wamdai Lea?
This August on Magical Scenes.
A big number of wildlife migration than there before. It started on the 14th of July.
So I can tell you that the season is looking pretty good.
A combination of wildlife and cultural tourism.
Hasa ni culture yanaonyesha nguo ya Maasai.
Magical Sense, only on KBC Channel 1.
Yawi hayawi, mwishowe huwa. Kituo chako unachokienzi cha Minto FM kinatimiza miaka 12 tangu kilipoanza. Ili kuadhimisha siku hii, tunawaalika mashabiki wetu kujumuika nasi katika msururu wa roadshow utakaofanyika ndani ya kaunti ya Nyamira. Kutakuwa na burudani na vichekesho. Alhamisi tarehe 17 mwezi huu wa Agosti, msafara wa Minto FM utaanzia Kijauri, Keroka, Rigoma, Kemera, Kebirigo na kumalizia siku Nyaramba. Ijumaa tarehe 18, msafara huu utaanzia Ekerenyo, Ikonge, Nyamusi, Mawawa, Miruka, Nyamaya na kumalizia Nyabite. Jumamosi tarehe 19 tutatamatisha maadhimisho yetu kwa ibada ya shukrani katika kanisa la Nyamira Central SDA kuanzia saa 3 asubuhi. Njoo ukutane na watangazaji wako unaowaenzi. Minto ata 12 Gusi Neyaito.
All right, thank you so much for sticking with us. We continue with this conversation, and as I mentioned earlier, I'm with the Honorable Wilson Sosion in studio. Thank you so much, Mheshimiwa, for being here. And to at the center, I'm with Chris Owala. Thank you so much for coming. And of course, joining us now is Gibson Gisore, political analyst. Karibu sana.
Thank you so much.
Bwana Gisore, before we took that break, we were talking about the fuel subsidy. And the conversation is it about vocabulary or policy? Tell me about it. What do you think about it?
Thank you so much, Ram, for inviting me for this show. For me, I think where I come from is really what is in a name, because the whole aspect should be what is the essence of this particular, whether it's a stabilization fund, whether it's actually an incentive. They might even call it some other name which they might want to come up with, because I can relate this to the housing fund, where we first were talking about, the regime was talking about it's not a tax, then later it ended up being a tax. So, I mean, let's just call it what it is. So what I'm interested in really is to see that this regime, that is the Kenya Kwanza regime, is coming to terms to realize that the cost of living is really high and they need to do something. And at least they just don't want to come out clearly and say, we want to help you Kenyans. I don't know why they are shy of saying that we want to stabilize the fuel prices, because that's one major thing which is really causing a lot of pain to Kenyans. Every time you go to the pump to fuel, you actually feel the pain of carrying the government in your pocket. So if we are going to do this, they need to do it right. They need to just as well come out and say that we are doing 1, 2, 3 for the same. But the story of telling us, oh, it's not a tax, or it's not a stabilization fund, does not augur well. They need to have proper communication channels, and then they process Kenyans in a very clear way. I don't see anything wrong for them saying we're going to do this for purposes of trying to cushion Kenyans.
All right. Before we took that break, Honorable Sosion mentioned something And I would like to put it out there also that at the back page of the Daily Nation mentioned it. Food prices expected to drop as harvesting starts. That is the headline there. Food prices expected to drop as harvesting starts. Well, food prices items have actually started to drop after supplies of fresh harvests hit the market in a welcome relief for Kenyans who have struggled and have been struggling to afford the cost of sugar, fuel, electricity, and transport. According to the Central Bank of Kenya's July 2023 Agriculture Sector Survey, which tracked the prices of agricultural commodities in selected markets and farms last month, it shows that a downward trend is there in prices in July. If you look at the prices of different commodities, actually the survey findings closely mirror data published by the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics a fortnight ago, which showed inflation had eased to 7.3% in July, down from 7.9% in June. So it was the lowest year-on-year inflation since May last year, which it stood at 7.1%, largely driven by low food prices. Now, between June and July, if you look at the numbers, the prices of Irish potatoes dropped in the fastest rate of 12.2%, with a kilogram selling for 89 shillings and 7 cents in July, down from 101 shilling 41 cents in the previous months. So, Mr. Chris, if you look at the numbers don't lie.
Ram, the reduction, first you know that diets not live on bread alone.
Yes.
The life is not only revolving around maize. But there are other issues. The economy is not only on food.
Yeah.
There are other things that come with it.
But doesn't food have an effect?
Food has a big effect because 70 to 80% of what we earn goes to food. That's the reality. Yeah. But for how long will it be there? That's the question you need to ask. Ordinarily, at harvesting time, the prices must go down. It's not only on this year alone. It's something that any year people harvest. But again, you look at the trend. To what extent is it reducing? I was just trying to look at even in my village. See, it's stuck at 150. The 2 kilograms of gorogoro is still stuck at 150, stuck at 130. Ordinarily, it goes beyond 100 shillings, even in my village. So it's not something to celebrate, because there are other things that tie the people. The reality is that we are like George Floyd's, where the government is on your neck, because all other taxes, for example, for the first time, people who are going to universities, are fundraising is all over. People might not have anything in their pockets to make
the person at the village there. Yes. Doesn't that make someone
make them smile? But what do we do to make it remains there or comes lower, further lower?
Are you saying it might go higher?
It might go higher. That's the truth.
100%.
I think I've never come across a pessimistic person like my good brother here, Chris Owale, who wants to see everything is failing even when it's improving. You still want to predict gloom and doom. But I think we are not strangers in Kenya, and these figures don't lie. The data from Kenya National Bureau of Statistics on 3 months consistent reduction of inflation is not a lie. And you see, when you talk of inflation, you're not only talking about the agricultural products, prices coming down. Mm-hmm. It's across board. The cost of living, looking at the price indices. Central Bank of Kenya has given another round of convincing data, in fact, up to the prices of various commodities that everybody uses. When Kenya Kwanza said going to the streets and putting on sufurias is not going to reduce the cost of living, but rather let farmers go to the farms and farmers be supported. I think the naysayers were very negative about it. Even if you beat Sofrias in the street for one full year, food originates from the farms. And right from day one, when the president was sworn in on 13th of September, he declared a price reduction of fertilizers to 3,500, and registration of farmers is targeted distribution of fertilizers, which was done. We are beginning to see the impact. And in fact, you drive across the country with the plenty of rains that we've had, the farmers have worked very hard. And in fact, it's the greatest incentive. And it's what many governments do. You incentivize the farmers in terms of farm inputs to secure food security. When there's national food security, then the cost of living is reduced. And this is the impact we are seeing. And it's right across the country. And for the next season, the next strategic intervention measures is reducing further the fertilizers to 2,500. And the manufacture of agrochemicals and other farm inputs has been given tax waiver for raw materials. That means it will be available to farmers in the moving forward at lowest prices. That means farmers will be more incentivized to reduce inputs, both agrochemical and fertilizers. And of course, we've seen the area of seeds. We've seen the BT cotton farmers in Busia, and all these will spread to all manner of crops, including even sugar. Sugar that is very scarce in the country is an area that is set for serious revival. So when you look at all this, surely any normal Kenyan who is educated will definitely appreciate that these are straight, clear, measurable intervention measures to bring down the cost of living and to avail also disposable income to ordinary Kenyans like the farmers. When farmers sell their goods, they get the money. And it's talked of other aspects like education. Of course, students are going to universities. There are other straight intervention measures to deal with universities in terms of the funding model that will see the poorest household get substantial scholarship and a balance of loan that is going to clear 100% the fee payment. So nobody should really talk about it. Those who will be able to pay from their household income are those who will choose to do so.
Right.
And that's an area that is also handled. And look at the cost of running schools, school feeding programs, feeding all our 20 million learners in a day across the country by schools. And with the previous escalated cost, the handshake come as a new regime that really was definitely blind. How do you administer a country where the price of fertilizers is at 7,000, food is becoming available to schools, it's difficult to run schools, and a bag of maize was almost going at almost 7,000 to feed students in school. In fact, schools were almost shutting down or doing away with school feeding program. Now this is going to be affordable.
Now,
and it's going to be, and to run schools, the cost of running schools moving forward in terms of feeding of students and procuring food products to feed students in school, it will come down. So generally, within a period of 1 year, Kenya Kwanza administration has tackled the most challenging aspect of the cost of living. This one of fuel, it remains the responsibility of government to continue stabilizing using every other means. But subsidy has not become an option. IPRA has engaged in certain intervention measures to bring it down. So don't begin celebrating that Kenya Kwanza is going the route of subsidy.
Let me give
we are not going the route of subsidy.
Right of reply.
We will avoid it. And what government has done over the last through direct government-to-government supply of fuel. In fact, it could have been worse. And if you look at the prices of fuel across the region in Tanzania and Uganda, it's far much higher than Kenya. So the intervention by Kenya Kwanza to procure fuel to the country from government to government has actually saved the country. It could have been worse. So what
I'm looking at the time, maybe in the next
handshake regime,
maybe the next
handshake regime,
2 or 3 months,
far much better. We are doing
maybe in the next 2 or 3 months we'll be able to see how it has affected the education sector now that you are positive about it.
No, you can see it even now.
I think Mheshimiwa is a politician.
I'm not a politician, I'm a realist.
And you're saying he's a pessimist.
I'm a realist.
He's a politician.
And politicians are realists.
Politics is the art of lying, so that you have the masses with you. But the reality is that he might name me as a pessimistic person, but the reality is that this was a coincidence. The reduction in price. It's a coincidence. It's not the act. It's not the art of the Kenya Kwanza government. I don't think.
Why is it not the art? Can you prove?
What makes it a coincidence?
In my village, I didn't see them distribute fertilizer. So if they take pride of what they didn't invest in, then to me that's not the right.
We are relying on data of Kenya National Bureau of Statistics (CBK), but we are not relying on where you stay.
You're saying you've not seen
I've not seen them distribute fertilizer in my village.
But
then they are saying,
where do these numbers come from?
When my mother harvests, then they take pride of it. To me, that's where the disconnect is, Rama. Because you see, you take credit on where you have put your time, put your resources. But if Kenyans are on their own, the reality is, smallholder farmers are toiling day and night. If by a coincidence they get some product, the government cannot say, this is our contribution. To me, that's wrong. That's a lie. That need to be demystified.
I guess I should come in. I guess I should come in because the two having.
Yes, Gibson. I'll come back to you. Yes, Gibson.
Let me start from where he has left.
Yes.
I equally have not seen any fertilizer in my own village, and my people are not talking about having received any fertilizer. Actually, for the first time, there was some rumor, I think a week or two back, when fertilizer was rumored to have come to the larger Kisii region, which is also another farming agricultural place. So that, of course, Chris is right that this regime seems to be taking advantage of other things which people have really worked for to take credit. But then, on the onset, they understand what needs to be done. And we need to congratulate them on that. For Mheshimiwa, I think I liked him better when he was a Nat, when he was with Nat, not the Mheshimiwa we are seeing, because I used to have a lot of faith in him. When he used to speak for teachers,
that was the best.
I could trust that something would come through. Because my mom was a teacher, so every time I could see somebody fighting for my mom. Yes. So that was I had a lot of faith. But the politician now, I think, is somewhere in between. So what needs to be done to bring down the cost of living? Because we need to really face serious facts here as a country. The Kenya Kwanza government seems to know, but it's handling these things in a very cosmetic way. Why are they not going to head on to deal with the real challenges? Because if you want to bring the cost of living down, you've got to start dealing with issues like irrigation. Mm-hmm. They say they're doing 100 dams, which is the right thing, but we have not seen any so far, which has come on. It's a year into. And then I think there is the perception of trying to cry about the handshake, which is long lost because that's way back. We need to start seeing the agenda, which is building dams. Once we start doing irrigation, then we actually move from the old era of farming, because the kind of farming we are doing is the one somebody like waiting for the rain and sunshine is what used to be done ages ago. Now things have changed. We need to do irrigation so that we have a proper stabilization of food prices. Once that is covered, we will not be crying around about having a stabilization fund or not having a stabilization fund for.
All right. Now,
any serious government, Ram, just a minute.
Yes.
Any serious government will want to deal with manufacturing. If they were serious about manufacturing, we could be seeing all the 15 or so sugar millers up and running. Okay. Right now, Western and Luo Nyanza sugar farmers are not farming sugarcane, but we are talking about importing sugar because it's an easier way. If we were to deal with these things head on, we could not be talking about the cost of living.
I would like to move us to move to yet another thing, because this cannot be discussed in completion today. You have something to say? I give you a minute before
they've had all their space trying to push the government left, right, and center, and I think I have a right of reply.
Yes, you have a right of reply. Yes.
Right of reply. One, my brothers here don't understand the plan of Kenya Kwanza, the manifesto of Kenya Kwanza, and they don't seem to be seeing the significant results. And it doesn't mean that the fact that Kenya Kwanza was elected, the economy was a switch on, switch off affair, that things begin working right all of a sudden. There are a lot of realistic things that needed to be done. The first budget that directly addresses the flagship programs and projects of Kenya Kwanza has just been passed. It's the Finance Act, you know. It was okayed by the courts the other day. That is going to focus on the various flagship programs. So for the last 1 year, Kenya Kwanza has been working within possible means to try and deliver quite a number of areas. And you see, the agro-revolution agenda by Kenya Kwanza is real. There will be irrigation in this country. Those programs are underway. It will be there.
But this country, time will tell.
No, just allow me. Give me space.
I would like us to move. I'm adding you 30 more seconds.
Yes, because he has touched other aspects of agriculture, including irrigation. We've talked of seeds, fertilizers, and of course, reviving sectors that died, like the factories that are not functioning. If there are no canes, you can't expect factories to function. And that really is serious to the sugarcane farmers in Kenya. And the government is on its way to ensure that all this is revived and sugarcane farmers are back to production and are benefiting. But of course, you look at the wider, big agenda, the main flagship programs of Kenya Kwanza, agricultural revolution is coming. We've already begun seeing data is here. It doesn't lie. There's already reduced prices and availability of food. Other aspects, the MSMEs, because you've said you're in business, you've seen the Hustler Fund with activities with membership of over 20 million and so much activities borrowing up to 30 billion and repayment of over 20 billion. It's working. The digital revolution, because this is one country that is leading in terms of digital transactions and operation, is what enables business, is what makes the digital infrastructure alone is a major form of infrastructure that is underway. The housing is on course. Yes, you have said what is being levied. The argument was whether it was a tax or not, but it's a levy. It is it's being implemented. So we are very sure. And I said one time, in 20 years' time, with the revolution of settlement through housing, somebody will give President William Ruto a Nobel Prize for bringing some revolution in housing. Because look at it. Countries like Europe, if you look at the Green Revolution in Germany, it was also with organized settlement. And you look at many other countries, Singapore, and it is time in this country. And this housing program will be devolved to all the constituencies in this country. And then there is UHC, and we have done a lot of work in education. In 1 year, empirically, there are clear, palpable deliverables that even a blind man can touch.
You've had your right of reply.
What Gibson was saying, and I agree with him, when you are not person, Meshimwa was very... I was dear to my heart.
And I would say,
these are real.
I have not changed my character. I am still a unionist to the core, and I would always speak the truth.
The government is a way of some magic.
This truth that I'm speaking now does not please you. And I have no apologies. If the truth I'm speaking now does not please you. Because I always speak, I'm constant. No. I speak the truth through and through.
All right. Yes, left the people.
The truth I used to speak then and the truth I'm speaking now is the same truth. It only the truth of the moment does not please you. So if it doesn't please you, I have no apologies to make. I'm really sorry.
You have a reply to the Mheshimiwa?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Go ahead. It's free. Yeah.
I think Mheshimiwa is right that they...
And will you allow me also to reply?
The Kenya
No, then you're biased.
No, Mheshimiwa, I'm supporting you here. I'm supporting you because some of the things and my opening statement was like they're trying to do some right things, but the way they are going about it is very cosmetic. We need to see something tangible, something real.
All right.
For example, if you are talking about the fertilizer subsidies and you want to reduce the cost of sugar, not only maize, because we have seen only maize being targeted, we could start by waiving all the debts which the sugar factories have and giving fertilizers to those farmers. Because you talk, there's no cane. We need to put fertilizer to the farmers so that they grow cane. And then they be paid their monies. So that could have been a very good start. So if these things were being done concurrently, not in a piecemeal, then we could be talking about a regime which is really conscious of trying to bring down some of these costs.
All right.
Costs down. The issue of the fuel is something which I think which is also being handled in a very cosmetic way.
Yes.
The issue of government has turned out to be a scandal because we were told once the government scale was to be affected, the prices were to come down significantly to like 100. Now instead they are going up. So if we could be talking about, because the stabilization fund, the much it reduces is by a shilling or two, it never goes beyond 5. But when it increased, we moved from around 150, now we are doing almost close to 200. Actually, if you go people, it's past 200. So how are we bringing this down? Because we need to see significant changes when it comes down so that it actually touches the Kenyan to a level that it can be able to. But if you reduce a shilling or two, you cannot say, oh, we cannot start celebrating that we have really won the war.
Allow me to move to Chris. Let me hear from Chris.
Can I just have a rebuttal here?
Yes.
I think when you address agriculture, there's a climate change effect. And when you say you start and end with fertilizer, then you are not addressing the farming the way you're supposed to address. We need to invest in smallholder farmers. This is what drives globally. If you want to fight food price issues, food sovereignty is rests with the small-scale farmers. Make sure that you have small irrigation scheme that can spark, because we can't say that rains has happened by accident. We have got rains now by accident. If we don't invest in water for these farmers to get rains, to get water to make sure that their agriculture is sustained, make sure that you have got agriculture extension officers. The reality is, even this agriculture is a devolved function. Why is the national government not releasing money to counties to do agriculture the way they're supposed to do? Why are they still hanging on resources which are meant for counties and they pretending to be facilitating devolution?
Now, we shall be able to tackle that after this break. And when we'll be back, we shall just watch a clip filed by our newsroom. Remember, we're now 10 years down the line concerning devolution. 10 years of devolution. How far are we? You've mentioned the counties. You've mentioned county funding. Honorable Sossion also mentioned about how counties are working. On the front page of the People Daily, governors owe supplies 160 billion shilling. When will they pay? That is a question. As county bosses meet in Eldoret for the Devolution Conference, the elephant in the room will be how they owe and when they plan to settle old debts. That is a conversation we'll be having after this break. How are our counties doing? Let's talk about 10 years of devolution. Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a break and then we'll be back in a bit. Keep it KBC.
name is Julius Diego, the former world champion, 2015, the World Championships. And yes, I'm back again, and I'm looking forward to Budapest, to doing my best. And we all need your prayers. We're doing our best to make our country proud. And yeah, see you in Budapest.
What a surprise, Mr. Arturo. I thought you had retired from your businesses.
With my businesses, it is possible, but not with my life.
Do you really think that woman actually has any idea who the real father of her son is? Come on, my goodness.
Yes, of course she does. In fact, I'm surprised that you don't know about it, Amparo.
You can think whatever you want, Amparo. Anything I say, you're going to doubt anything I tell you about Carolina Tinojo. Whatever I say.
Something's wrong there. My leg's hurting.
Okay, come. Let's take a look. Come on, I'll take you. Come on. Just relax now.
Mimi ni Shamsa, mke wa Zito. Zito linambia kuwa hana mke. Mimi sitaki kujua.
Kiza Jamal. Shamsa is my wife. Achana naye. Sawa.
Zito kufa kuzikana.
Zuri. Zuri.
Mami,
hapa niko mami yako.
Okay.
Mimi niko Mrs. Madam.
Kuna mahali ulinipatia pilau wewe mama?
Mr. Ondek iko sema yeye kushapatia wewe.
Mr. Ondek iko kusema, si ndio? Mark 30 please. Your Honor, Mark 30. Between me and you, who brought the pilau in my house?
Wewe ndio liliba ukapeleka kwa nyumba yako. Unataka nirudie mpaka changapi?
Can you get out? Or else I will take action on you.
No. Please don't shout.
All right, we continue with this morning show, and I want us to talk about matters concerning devolution. Before we took that break, we were talking about matters concerning fuel subsidy and its effects. Now, I'd like you to take a look at this picture, and to my guests also, maybe you can get a glimpse of what... Now, this is the Standard newspaper, and there is a caricature on this particular paper. I'd like you guys to just tell me what you think about this particular image here. And my cameraman here, Mogaka, you can just come in closer to that particular. Yes, that's it. Now you can see now this is a man holding a pan, and on that particular pan written policies. On the face, fuel subsidy. Tell me what you think about this and your understanding. How would you interpret this particular caricature, Honorable Sossion?
Now, that's creation of the media. That is one person a cartoonist who is trying to influence, right? You know, I've been in the media space. I've been in the media space for a long time. And that is what we call an egg on face, isn't it? That is the impression. And in fact, you're taking us back to the cost of living.
All right.
Do you know the behavior of the dollar globally currently? The behavior of the dollar currently could have raised the prices of fuel in Kenya to levels that are unsustainable if it were not for the intervention measures that Kenya Kwanza government has put in place. One, government to procurement has maintained it at an all-time manageable low.
Okay.
And look at the dollar. The dollar is almost at 150 shillings. And the effect of the dollar, we must appreciate, for any goods that are being imported will be very difficult, very expensive and difficult to manage. That is one.
We're
Two,
trying to understand this particular
the action by IBRA.
Yes.
No, that cartoon is very mischievous and is part of the wider game of media to bastardize Kenya Kwanza.
Right.
That is the image of the president. Yes, and you know, definitely I don't agree with that. And that is one person. It doesn't mean it is empirical view of everyone.
All right.
And then when it comes, we've talked about the dollar effect. Allow me.
Yes.
And of course, delay in government remittance of county funds.
Transfers.
County transfer funds were not remitted by handshake regime and Azimio government. But Kenya Kwanza government has remitted to the last coin. So the issue of non-servicing of pending bills should now not arise. That was a different government for this government. But then when you talk of agriculture, you're talking about cane farming. There's been deliberate intervention in coffee sector, up to even marketing. Now the farmers can market their coffee. And all the cartels and brokers have been removed. Tea has been addressed. Milk is being addressed. The next that will be addressed is cane farming. And Kenya Kwanza government will move step by step, sector by sector, from coffee, tea, milk, and it is work in progress. All we need is deep understanding and support, particularly by eminent people who are well educated like you. I don't expect you to argue.
All right, let me come to you. Remember, I'm giving it 30 seconds each.
Optimistic Kenyans want to see things.
Yes. I think from my understanding, I think the cartoon or whichever name caricature that Mheshimiwa is describing is speaking the truth. It's giving us where we are and what people are seeing. You know, when you attend, you might not see your back. Many times it's difficult to see your back, but somebody can see it for you.
All right.
Yes.
All right. Briefly.
I think for me is that caricature actually depicts the feeling of Kenyans because government should be very simple and clear to the point. When they start telling us the stabilization fund, it's not an incentive, then people are left confused. So whoever came up with that caricature, I think, must have interpreted the feeling of Kenyans. Whether true or not true, it's left for the jury to judge. But then you know where you stand.
All right.
When you go to the fuel pump station.
But Honorable Sosion believes that caricature, the one who drew it was being cheeky.
Yeah, extremely mischievous. Because we are trying to display an ache on the face of the president.
On the face.
And I'm seeing somewhere in social media, somebody saying the government of Kenya is paying 22,000 shillings per child in high school. What is the big issue when government pays 7 shillings per litre for fuel? So if government is paying for you, what is the contestation?
I think there's a big difference between education and fuel.
It is debatable.
It is all payment from the exchequer.
It is debatable.
But measures to mitigate.
Just after you are moving forward, and I'm dropping that.
I don't think there's sincerity.
We are out of order.
The government is not paying.
No, your panelists are out of order.
The government is not paying.
But we are talking about facts, right?
It's actually a tax which is used to stabilize.
That's your money.
It's not
That's your money.
That's your money. It's not the government paying for it. The government has no money.
Let's move forward. And
government collects
my producer,
and paying.
Fadili.
Government collects and pays.
Yes, gentlemen. We are dropping that conversation.
No, I'm not misleading.
We are dropping that conversation, and I want us to take a look at this particular clip. This is the devolution journey of the country. 10 years of devolution.
The inception of devolution a decade ago saw 14 functions move from the national government to the county level, as articulated in 4th schedule of the Constitution. This was aimed at ensuring services were closer to the people and open development in areas that had previously suffered resource marginalization.
We have really made progress, and the focus now should be on where next for devolution.
So it's an opportunity to review, it's an opportunity to critique what devolution has been able to achieve and what it has not been able to achieve, and now setting the pace for the next 10 years on what devolution should do.
Among the functions distributed to the county governments were county health services, agriculture, cultural activities, public entertainment and amenities, county transport, animal control and welfare, trade development and regulations, county planning and development, pre-primary education, village polytechnics, county public works, control of drugs and pornography, environmental conservation on specific national government policies, and coordination and participation of communities in governance.
What we are doing as a government is doubling our efforts in revenue collection, and we are doing that by closing all the loopholes.
The 14 functions, as spelled out in the Constitution, have so far been funded to a tune of 3.6 trillion shillings. And this begs the question, have the county governments effectively absorbed the funds? Opinion remains divided.
Still fighting with the national government on the rollout of the other devolved functions. There are functions worth about 275 billion, which are still lying in the national government. This year, the counties have been given about 385 billion. So with the 275 billion plus 385, that will be about 600 billion going to the counties, which will do a lot of things that will be done in our counties. So we expect the government to come forward with a plan of rollout of the remaining functions that are supposed to be taken to the county governments.
While proponents of devolution argue that the transfer of functions has led to an improvement of service delivery, others have faulted county bosses for not always factoring in projects of interest to the electorate. The point of departure mainly touching on the implementation of the county health services, transport, agriculture, betting and liquor regulations.
These instructions are so clear. They must work with counties, especially on shared responsibility, like, for example, in agriculture, in health, in water. We must work together because we can't work in silos. National government at that level and ourselves at this level.
The national government has always been at crossroads with counties over the transfer of resources commensurate with the functions allocated, as well as the personnel to ensure efficiency. A case in point being the cause by some healthcare unions for some of the functions to be transferred back to the national government, including employment of healthcare workers.
Sometimes the unions of healthcare professionals would not understand that, and they keep trying to claw back the health function back to the national government. And I think it's about time that we had a sitting and understand the reason why this was devolved in the first place.
In the 2023 Division of Revenue Bill that President William Ruto sent it to in April, the counties received 385 billion shillings as an equitable share of revenue, up from the 370 billion shillings. This year's devolution conference will no doubt reawaken the debate as the government seeks to fully implement the devolution as envisaged by the drafters of the Constitution and endorsed by Kenyans in the 2010 referendum.
Yes, that is a report filed by our news team, courtesy of the news desk. 10 years. This year's devolution conference is the 10th since the country adopted the new constitution. 10 years of devolution. Where are we? We are talking about so many things happening in the country. Politics, fuel subsidy is what we were discussing. That and much more. But as a country, have we hit a few marks or have we missed them? Are there things that we can be proud of? And are there things that we've managed to achieve within the past 10 years? Remember, we shall be having a live coverage of that particular devolution conference that is taking place in Uasin Gishu County. But still, my guest today, let me start with you, Chris, concerning this. Are you proud of where we are as a country 10 years down the line?
That's a difficult question, Ram, because if you look at what devolution was to achieve, we are not yet there. We if you look at the resources that have been devolved, vis-a-vis what we are seeing, it's a big contradiction. And some of this contradiction is because the national government in some cases are still stuck on some functions that ought to have been fully devolved. I remember, I think some 8 months back, His Excellency the President instructed the Intergovernmental Technical Coordination Committee to make sure that all those functions that are not yet devolved be unbundled, and so that it's clear that those resources can go to the counties. There could be a good will from the President to make sure that there are resources goes to where they are. But looking at the devolution the way it's supposed to be, I think we are in the red. If you see resources vis-a-vis, and if, for example, if you look at healthcare, where you are saying that a lot of resources, money is supposed to go to recruit doctors, to recruit health, to nurses and the rest. If you look at how the employment is being done, employment is not being done to improve service delivery, but employment is being done for political expediencies, where I realize that somebody just decide to hire people who don't add value because they are politically correct, but the area where you're supposed to hire, for example, we are talking about the extension workers here. Agriculture is fully devolved, but I'm here to see a county in this Republic of Kenya, maybe if Shemwa and my friend here, Devolution, might have seen from their counties, that have hired the so-called extension workers. And this is a purely a devolved function. At the transitional level time, you realize that there were donations by other donors to support agriculture. And there were motorbikes that were bought to enable the extension workers deliver services. Those motorbikes are now being personalized because the agricultural officers that are now using them for their own. And if they fuel it, they repair, and they go and service farmer at the farmer's cost. So it beats the logic. But if you look at also where we had a disconnect, the transitional authority didn't do its work well. That's where we also missed the issues of how do we transfer resources and power and function to the country. And I think this convention, we don't need to have is 10 years of devolution. And I want to share that this conference is the 8th conference, 10 years after devolution.
Yes.
But it's the 8th conference.
Yes.
Looking at I happen to sit in a civil society devolution working group at national level. And we have been looking at this. The way budget is being done at county level, a lot of the governors don't apply money where the people where to solve people's felt needs. If you're looking at the issue of public participation, if you look at Article 174, there is clear that people's to decide on how they are ruled, bringing government closer to the people. Meaning that if our problems is water, the government, county government, we engage so that we get water. There are many areas in this country that we are still sharing water with the animals. The water availability is still a problem. But the bigger picture is, we see a lot of growers, a lot of big cars. So devolution, if you ask anybody in your village, what is the impact of devolution? They say you, county staff are the one enjoying devolution. And if you look at it, we are not saying that it's bad to get to enjoy. In county staffs, county government are the kings now in the villages. They extort, they get money from you, they eat that money to the extent that people have given up also in issue of public participation. When you go to public participation this year, you raise your issues, they're not budgeted for. Next year, you raise them, they're not budgeted for. So there's apathy. People are saying, okay, all right, this devolution was not meant to serve us, but serve the few selected individuals. Right. Even employment. Okay. It's certain families, certain people that keep on being recycled in these positions.
Now, yes, we are still talking about how we feel 10 years down the line, but it's important, still concerning what you've said, it's important to note that some counties are working with various partners. Yes. As we speak. Yes. And this is for them to drive development projects, for example, entrenching value addition in agriculture. Some are directly engaging with donors to raise funds for critical projects. 10 years down the line, that is still something that we can be proud of. Even Tharaka Nithi County, for example. it had, and it's featured even in our dailies, a medical drone program. They were having that program, delivering medical supplies through drone technology, which is one of the approaches the county government of Tharaka Nithi is actively pursuing. So what do you mean? When you mention such things like, health workers, and isn't this a step in the right direction?
There are counties that have made good use of devolution.
There are counties that
have made good use of devolution. Like Kakamega, if you look at healthcare, they have tried. If you look at West Pokot, for the first time, they were marginalized. They have improved.
Right,
if you look at Wajir, we look at Garissa. But if you look at the main counties that we thought will be a game changer, they have fallen.
Like which county?
Kisumu, Siaya, they have fallen. Mombasa, they have fallen. That's the reality.
I think we need a professionally done audit of devolution 10 years down the line.
Okay.
And we need this to be done empirically so that we are able to guide the next discourse and understand rather than talking from guesswork. But from the little data that we have is agreed. The intention of devolution really was the best. It was the best product of the constitutional making process. And how I wish devolution existed from 1963. So that the centric nature of controlling resources and development from the center could have been reduced. There is still competing interest between the central and devolved units. And since at the center there was too much corruption, devolution has also devolved a great form of corruption. Now, when you analyze critically in terms of two things, driving development and expenditure in development areas, that is creation of capital, infrastructure, and recurrent, many counties are consuming most of their resources on salaries. So really, there is no room for development. Many counties cannot generate own revenue, because counties are supposed to generate own revenue, develop partnership with the other investors and donors and supporters. That is the freedom they have. Some lack capacity to do that. They spend what comes from national government, and that is it. And when you look at the key flagship programs like health, has health done better under devolution than it was in the central government? Yes.
They don't
why are health workers so restless? Doctors and nurses, they feel they should be managed from the center. So what was supposed to be devolved? Is it the infrastructure and the management of hospital? How was the human resource supposed to be managed?
That counties want health to be brought back to the national government.
Then, yes, medics are agitating for a health service commission that manages only human resources and are managed nationally, so that then the other resources and aspects are managed at the counties, which to me makes a lot of sense. That's why we argued teachers should be managed nationally under TSC, and we succeeded. So it's just one and the same thing, because it's too heavy for county government to manage the human resource aspect of its staff and also manage the delivery of services and our facilities. Some governors are lost about it. They can't even manage the ECD as just a small function that is given to them. So there are a lot of teething challenges. What really was supposed to be devolved? Is it everything or certain aspects of that center? So that is co-shared with national government. Yeah, if you're talking about a neurosurgeon being deployed to Siaya County government or Kisii County government, a neurosurgeon to be managed by MCAs and governance structure, that is, surely these are some of the things. What was supposed to be, through a proper audit, we should be able to distill and know what functions are supposed to still reside at the national government and what are supposed to be devolved to the county government. Now, then let's come to the aspect of deliverables. We should see deliverables in agriculture. We should see deliverables in health, and not just imaginations, not just empty rhetorics, but real deliverables. That is why there's the aspect of public participation for all programs at the counties. Then the question is, are these public participation programs mere public relations for spending and satisfying the budget allocation for public participation, or the actual public participation that deliver results? Those are things we need to check. And then very lastly, two things that I see in devolution. There is a very weak oversight framework on devolution. The Senate is supposed to oversight. The senators are supposed to oversight devolution in their respective counties. Are they doing it? Do they have the infrastructure to do it? The county assembly, the parliament of every county, is supposed to oversight. Are they oversighting, or they've been absorbed into compromise situations by governors? Are they independent? Are the assemblies really independent? And do they have teeth to bite, even as they process and approve the budgets? Do they have power and capacity to oversight? So we need to check these two institutions, the Senate and the assemblies, to structurally and effectively oversight the operations of the county government. Then this animal that has been created called pending bills, if it is at 160 billion, and right now all pending funds at the national government have been dispersed to the counties, and still this 160 billion still exists, that tells us that there is something that is not right with the fiscal management and prudency at the county. If we have 160 billion of pending bills, this is actually sabotaging the economy. Now, once all payments have been, once all remittances from the central government has been affected, because I believe the pending bills are charged against the remittances that are expected from the exchequer. And if the exchequer has paid promptly to the last cent, all the monies, why should we still have the pending bills? And this is where the Comptroller of Budget and the Auditor General should rein on the county governments to ensure that all the pending bills are cleared, because this is destroying the economy, it is destroying businesses.
Now, remember, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about 10 years of devolution. 10 years of devolution. And as I mentioned earlier on, this is the 8th devolution conference taking place at Uasin Gishu County. As we speak, we have live pictures live from Uasin Gishu County. These are images. This is where the event is taking place, or going to take place. And as you can see, we have movement in this particular area. This is in Uasin Gishu County, Eldoret to be specific. Now, the theme of this particular conference, the 10th, about 10 years of devolution, we're talking about the present and the future. That is the theme. We're talking about the present and the future. 10 years of devolution, the present and the future. We are expecting over 15,000 guests to attend. This event is taking place in Eldoret at the Eldoret Sports Club. The president will be expected to come in to grace the occasion as we are launching this particular event. Simon Achola, Kamche Menza, and Nancy Okware, those are our colleagues who are already on the ground. They will be giving us live updates as we proceed with this particular program. These are live pictures in Eldoret. Remember, yesterday, governors and senators also had some devolution football. They played a game, and I believe it is the senators that won. So that is those are live feeds from Eldoret. We shall be heading over there in a bit. 10 years of devolution. How far are we? That is the 8th devolution conference taking place in the country. Let's take a short break and then we'll be back. After this, I want us to handle matters concerning corruption in the country. How has corruption affected devolution? And how far are we? We'll be back in a bit.
vijana chapakazi wenye nguvu za ziada.
My youth, uko na talent ya kusing, spoken word, kucompose jingles ama any other unexploited artistic talent. Gava through Ministry of Information, Communication and the Digital Economy na KBC sasa wame come up na project ya kupromote usanii called Studio Mashinani. Hizi ni studios ziko grassroots and they are fitted with high quality state-of-the-art equipment where you can produce quality audio and video music content for free. What's more, wanaoffer mentorship na talanta yako itakuwa promoted on KBC Channel 1 TV, Y254 na radio stations za KBC. Tembelea Studio Mashinani huko Comarox, Langata, Sauti House Mombasa, Kirwara huko Gatanga, Kitui next to Manyanyoni Chiefs Camp na Kisumu City wako hapo KBC Station. Usilalie talent. This is your chance to commercialize and popularize your talent through Studio Mashinani.
Kwa sitaki kuongeza ugomvi kati yako na mke wako.
My word is final and she knows that.
Nikifa utapumzika.
Mbona unasema hivyo mama?
Mtipili mimi sikipendi hichi chumba na niliapa kuwa sitawahi kukiingia tena.
Uweza pigania ndoa yako. Mwishowe siri zote zitatoboka tu.
Yaani kitu wewe nikuulize, wamdai ule? Wamdai Lea?
This August on Magical Scenes.
A big number of wildlife migration than there before. It started on the 14th of July.
So I can tell you that the season is looking pretty good.
A combination of wildlife and cultural tourism.
Sasa ni culture yanaonyesha nguo ya Maasai.
Magical Scenes only on KBC Channel 1.
Live from Broadcasting House, Nairobi, Kenya. This is KBC English Service.
And welcome to Beat Time Show, the very best of the 80s and 90s with John Korani, JK.
Timeless music hits across the decades.
This is the place to be after you've had a tough day. Here we celebrate love and life.
Just watch. The sound of KBC English Service.
I'm your host Caroline Wangishi, Karo Gatata Moshero.
My name is Geoffrey Mongai.
News, information and entertainment. KBC English Service, Kenya's official national radio.
Ten years of devolution. How far are we? Are you satisfied with where we are at as a country? My name is Ram Maguko. If you've just joined us, this is Good Morning Kenya. We proceed with this conversation. This is The Viewpoint. And as we proceed with this particular discussion, I would like to highlight on our Twitter handle where we've asked a question. Devolution has been around for now 10 years. Is devolution performing as anticipated in your region? Talk to us. Is devolution performing as anticipated in your region? The hashtag is Good Morning Kenya at Ram Maguko, which is my handle, and at KBC Channel 1, which is the official station handle. Just to read a few comments here. This is Ochoki saying River Nile flows away from Lake Victoria. Is that a metaphor? Max is saying, watching live, saying it is working for them. All right. This is Sophie. Sophie saying Tana River County has a big problem with devolution. Development budget absorption is less than 10% despite the area being historically marginalized and needing much development. The government does not know what they can do even to spur economic growth. That is according to Sophie. Keep engaging with us. The hashtag is Good Morning Kenya. We are asking, is devolution working in your region? And we shall give or air your feedback as we continue with this conversation. And still, I'm with my guest here today, Gibson. We are talking about 10 years of devolution. The 8th conference is taking place in Uasin Gishu County. Are you proud of where we are at as a country 10 years down the line?
I will say I'm proud. I'm a proud Kenyan that we embraced devolution for starters. But whether I'm proud as to the achievements of this devolution, I think I can say no. And the reason I'm saying no is because there are a lot of positives which we ought to have seen, but we have not seen them for one reason or the other. And I would want to impress what Mheshimiwa Association said. I think it's time we do a proper empirical research and audit to determine whether this devolution is really achieving what it was supposed to achieve, or we are just engaging in other sideshows. Why I state that I'm a proud Kenyan that we have devolution, perhaps this is the route we could have taken right from independence, which we never took. And we could be somewhere different. For example, we could be in the region of where South Korea is right now. Some of the things which we ought to have put in place, we never put them in place. This is the right time to actually embrace devolution and make it work so that we can change the fortunes of our people. Because our people have suffered for too long. There are some positives. Let me start, let me not be very pessimistic as Mheshimiwa was saying. There are some positives which we have realized through devolution, but though they are not very significant. If we can be able to build on that, we can be able to help our people. I could take an example of a county like Makueni. I would want to believe that under the advent of devolution, the former governor, Kifuta Kibwana Professor, did bring in some aspects of devolution. I think is one of the governors I could want to commend who actually understood what devolution and how it should be able to work. Because he was able to bring down the government down to the people. Because he was able to go to the villages and discuss development agendas for the people. He could be able to discuss macroeconomic issues like talking about negotiating with the European Union to start exporting things to the European Union. And we saw him set up factories. That is the true spirit of devolution. He also came up with the issues to deal with climate change, the first country to start tackling issues of climate change. These are very big positives which we need to embrace. We of course saw people like Mwangi Waida setting up creameries, which even Makueni also did. These are some of the positives which we can be able to embrace and say, if these people really were able to do this, you can talk of the Kakamega with the big hospital they built there, which was not there. And now it's even bigger than the county cannot be able to run there. I want to hand it over to the national government. These are some of the issues which, when we look at them, we say now devolution has gone to the ground. I'm happy about the issues to do with stadium. We can see here, not here, we can see Homa Bay coming up with a stadium which now I'm informed is going to host Shabana Football Club, which is a newly formed, it's a club which has come to the National League. And because the stadium in Kisii is undergoing renovation, they are now opting to play from Homa Bay. Homa Bay could have taken maybe for the longest time to come up with a stadium, but with the devolution we have seen this come. But that is as far as I can go with the positives. Let me tackle the negatives a bit so that we can be able to discuss. The issue of pending bills, as Mheshimiwa also said, is a big issue. But for the first time, we have seen the government actually clear all the money which is owed to the county. So there is really no need where we should be discussing the issue of pending bills by the end of this year, by the end of this financial year. We ought to have the governors pay everybody who supplied their counties so that we can be able to move forward. Failure to which government has got to also come up with a clear policy of ensuring that they engage in a carrot and stick. We have given you the money, but you've not spent it, or you have not paid the people you're supposed to pay. We need to see the stick come in, where we see some governors going in, we see some chief financial officers being taken to account to explain where the monies went instead of going to the people who have actually done the work. So those are some of the things which we need to engage. But as a lawyer, I also need to bring in the aspect of governance. Governance has not been handled as it is expected in the counties. There is an aspect of which Mheshimiwa talked about, whether the counties have really taken in the county assemblies, whether there's actually the aspect of checks and balances is actually applicable. It's not. In most of the counties, you find that the governors have sacked up these MCAs and they are taking them for trips when they want something critical to be passed, and then we don't have proper checks and balances. The senators are so weak to a level that they cannot be able to counter-check the governor. Some of them have been summoned and they sometimes refuse. So we cannot be able to afford to have such a lackluster way of dealing with a very key issue like devolution. So if we can be able to embrace some of these things, and lastly, if I may be able to come in and say that if we can effectively bring in the issue of the ward fund, that is what will mean difference, a big difference to every Kenyan, because the ward fund will be helping you get the resources which you require at the very grassroots level.
All right. Thank you, Gibson. And I would like to quote the Council of Governors Chairperson, Anne Waiguru, and I'm coming to you, Honorable Wilson Sosion, so that I may be able to release you. She said, and I quote, there is plenty to celebrate in the sector of finance, health, education, urban governance, roads and energy, agriculture, the blue economy, natural resource management, trade and investment, tourism and wildlife. There are so many things that we need to celebrate when it comes to all of this. Even as we talk about the negatives, we need to highlight also the positives, things that we've managed to achieve over the years. Now, it is true that yes, we may have some challenges in regards to development, but still we've had many hits. Honorable Session, let me come to you for a minute and then I'll release you.
I think the time available is for us to address core issues, core challenges.
Yes.
That's why we should take our minds and apply our minds to. Now, the counties will act as units of development for industrialization, because we need to reinvigorate the production sector of the economy. It shall not be done anywhere except under the counties. And we've seen national government has put in this budget 100 million to every county for industrial park, where goods are aggregated and value addition. Now, we expect counties to be units of economic transformation and revolution, with targeted investment and prudency in management of resources, and to turn around the economy. If we're talking about Makueni, a very dry county, able to produce and package milk, able to produce and package fruits, when any county in Kenya can do it. I was seeing a statement yesterday that was quoted in social media on Vladimir Putin, who said Africa is a potential continent that can produce food to feed the entire Europe, to feed the entire North America, to feed the entire Asia. But the problem with Africa is leadership. So that leadership is everywhere, up to the counties. So the thing is, we must strengthen the capacity of leadership at that level, and by ensuring that there are strong institutions of to check. And then, very lastly, this thing called corruption, we should not think about it through and through. And it's good we have lawyers here. It is time we criminalize corruption seriously in this country. And impose very severe penal measures against any proven corruption. If corruption is not punished, people will still run away with it. Even pastors will run away with corruption. And we will be here again in the next 10 years talking about devolution after 20 years when we have allowed certain vices to prevail and persist. We have seen conflicts. We've seen conflicts between governors and their deputies. It's a new frontier, and it's a very strange thing. It's all about resources. Sometimes we see it's about a chair that is procured at the cost of 2 million.
All right.
I want to see that chair that costs 2 million.
Thank you, Honorable Sosion, for
so
that.
I think there's a lot to be done, and we have no time to talk about the goods.
Yes.
The goods are there. There have been
we
good
will
things
talk about them.
have been highlighted, but I think we will talk about focus on the threats.
Thank you so much.
What are the threats to devolution?
Thank you so much for that. I know you mentioned you wanted to leave. We now release you, but still, let's head over to Eldoret, where we have our very own Kamche Menza on standby. This is a Devolution conference.
Well, good morning to you. Well, good morning to you back in studio, Ram. And like you said, we are here in Uasin Gishu County in Eldoret, where today, or rather this week, marks the 8th devolution conference for the country since the country adopted the devolved system of governance. And as you can see, where I'm standing is right inside the auditorium, where the event will be taking place. Today being the official opening of this week-long event that will be presided over by the President William Ruto. And as you can see, already delegates are within this auditorium. They're already seated, they've already taken their places, and others are still walking in. The official time for this event to kick off is from 10. There is a raft of activities that have been planned to take place. There is the planting of tree, the commemoration of planting of a tree. Then there'll also be outside, there are a number of stands from different sectors, from the county governments, from the partners with the government, are the ones who work hand in hand with the government in making or implementing the devolution. But right inside here is where the event will take place, and as you can see, delegates already seated. These are stakeholders from various counties, from various parts of the country, from the private sector as well as the public sector. But before I delve into so much of that, let me invite, this is the Kenya National Federation Juakali Association CEO, Richard Muteti. Remember, devolution seeks to entrench resources into the local sector or within the mashinani areas. So I would like to bring on board, this is Richard Muteti, to tell us how has Juakali improved, how has Juakali grown from where it started, and taking into consideration the fact that devolution was meant to come and bring up or actually decentralize resources to the people in the local level. Karibu sana Bwana Richard. Maybe if you could start us off, how do you think devolution has helped the Juakali sector?
Devolution has greatly helped the Juakali sector because it has brought attention to the bottom of the economy. As you may know very well, the Juakali sector people operate from the villages, from the ground, and for a very long time, attention was only in the major cities and towns. Now, in the advent of the devolution, county governments started concentrating on their local resources and local people. When you talk about local resources and local people, the biggest local resource for the counties is the people themselves. And the majority of them are the informal economic sector. And in this case, the Juakali sector. And as you can know, the Juakali sector powers this country. If you go to what you are seeing in these towns is not what you get in the villages. In the villages, it's the Juakali sector. You talk about the construction of houses, churches, furnitures, growing of food, ferrying people from one place to the other, the border, the informal economic sector. And again, when you talk about numbers, the informal economic sector employs more than 86% of all the total jobs in the country. So we are a big stakeholder, and we are excited to be here today.
Devolution has been termed a success. From where you sit, what has improved within the informal sector? What has improved?
What I can just say, the biggest improvement is the recognition. This is also a very interesting moment because the current government, the current regime is promoting the bottom-up economic transformation agenda, and it is starting from the bottom of the pyramid. The people at the bottom of the pyramid is the informal economic sector. Several programs that are being put in place, for example, the construction of markets, construction work sites, the affordable housing program. Most of these programs are focusing on the informal economic sector, the Juakali sector. We are happy that now our people are able to get contracts in the county governments to supply to them. It never used to be the same. So I can say, okay, a lot needs to be done. And why I'm here today, I'm going to sit in the afternoon panel that talks about micro and small enterprises scalability for intra and regional and national development, for socioeconomic development. So we as a sector, we appreciate the development and strides that has been made, but we believe that still more can be done. For example, we need to have say. We need to have say in the national and county governments' decision-making structures, so that they don't make decisions on our behalf, so that they don't make decisions on the behalf of the Juakali sector. We still need to see a lot of movements in productivity, scaling up our products, so that they can be able to be regionally and internationally acceptable. So we are talking about quality of our products, how we do them, scalability, access to affordable credit, access to skills in the TVETs, our relationship with the technical vocational institutions. A lot needs to be done, and that's why we are here today, to share those experiences.
Thank you so much. I wish you all the best. I understand that we have different or rather various stakeholders who will be sitting in the panel, as well as there will be breakouts within the sessions for people to deliberate among the issues that you've spoken about and even other issues. But we wish you all the best and very fruitful deliberations. Thank you so much. Well, Ram, that is one of the stakeholders who is here and who is expected to sit, of course, with the other members within the Devolution conference to be able to understand what exactly can be done to improve the informal sector. And like I told you, remember, county governments are here. Remember, COG is the biggest investor in this particular conference. COG includes the governors and the deputy governors, as well as the other members of the executive who will be looking to see how devolution is panning out. But without much ado, allow me to invite the CEC for Agriculture. He's already here from Machakos County, right? From Kitui County. I'm sorry for that. But maybe if you could just talk to us about how agriculture has been since you are in office right now. This is the 8th Devolution Conference, but we are marking 10 years since devolution took place in the country. From where you sit, how do you see agriculture in terms of its improvement?
Thank you. My name is Dr. Stephen Mbai Kimwele. I'm the County Executive Member, County Minister in charge of Agriculture and Livestock from County Government of Kitui. The agriculture is devolved under the 4th schedule, and I can tell you that 10 years of devolution, you have seen tremendous progress. As you know, like County Government of Kitui, we are in arid and semi-arid area, and we have little rain, and due to climatic change, we have a lot of problems with drought. But now, with devolution, money which has been brought down here, we have supported agricultural projects. We have partners who have come to work along with us. We have so many other non-state organizations who have come with us. And we as county government have put a lot of money. In our budget now, we have put around 8% of our budget, working towards 10% as declared in the Maputo Declaration. Therefore, the devolution, 10 years where we are in 2013 and where we are here right now, we have very serious progress in terms of fighting the food insecurity. We have ensured that the farmers have been capacity built. We are bringing back extension services, because you remember the extension services, the people are required on the ground to ensure farmers get the required information and further regulation is concerned. It had been neglected. But with the advent of devolution, we have bring back extension services. We are making sure that we provide the water, we provide drought-tolerant seeds, and we make sure that our farmers are informed and are kept abreast on what is happening in the world. Yes.
Maybe if we can look at what is happening today, we understand that you will be sitting with various stakeholders to deliberate on what exactly can be done as a way forward into devolution. What are some of the challenges that you think is still facing devolution, and you as people who are implementing that devolution in the counties should be done?
Thank you. You see now agriculture is 95-97% evolved. And sometimes we are facing delay in disbursement of funds. You find that will affect implementation of some of the projects. The other thing is we need to work closely with the national government that what is devolved should come down to the people. Let agriculture and healthcare services just be devolved as the Constitution as clearly said. And with those few things, we can really work together. And one thing we like at this point is that so many development partners have interacting directly with our farmers. and with our county officials. So therefore, I'm happy today to say that the devolution have bore fruits, and we are happy, and we need to continue to support devolution. Anyone who has any intention to just make devolution not work, that's an enemy of development. Therefore, with agriculture has worked very well, and our farmers, because agriculture is the backbone and is the bedrock. We need to support agriculture. Its contribution to the gross domestic products currently is around 26%. And what I can tell the big populace is that the youth need to come into agriculture. We have a problem that youth have abandoned. They don't to dirty their hands. They need to come in, because an average age of a farmer is around 65. Why should this nation be fed by our grandmothers and our mothers, yet we constitute the biggest population in this country? Therefore, the youth need to come. But also, I want to put a challenge to other executives from other counties. We need to make agriculture profitable. We need to provide input support, because it's very expensive, mechanization support. And also, we need to make income predictable. They need to have the market. So we need to talk about the whole value chain. That is from the production to marketing. All that value chain needs to be addressed, because now when you are planting, the big question should be, why are you planting? Do you have a market ready for you? Because you don't need to plant, then you get disappointed, not to lack of the market to sell your produce. Therefore, I'm saying we need to support agriculture. Once you support agriculture, we'll have sorted the issue of unemployment. Agriculture is the greatest employment multiplier. It has the biggest. It employs around 70% of the people on the ground. They are employed by agriculture. So what I can tell you, let's make sure that all the monies which are supposed to do agricultural production come down to the counties. They continue to implement and make sure that we as officials make sure that you oversight and make sure the money is used prudently for the benefit of the people. Yes, yeah, thank you. Okay.
Well, Ram, inside the auditorium, I'm told that we needed to conduct some prayer. So allow me also to be silent for the prayer as well as upstanding. Like you can see, people are upstanding. The event is about to start. So allow me to hand you over to this particular broadcast. Ram.
Those are live. That's a live feed from Eldoret. Remember, this is now the first day of this particular program. This is day one according to the program, and as you've just seen, they were just having their opening prayers starting today. We expect the president to officially start this particular event. Well, we shall be heading over to Uasin Gishu County in a bit. 10 years of devolution. Where are we? What are some of the conversations that we need to have as a country? Today, we expect the president to grace the occasion to officially open the ceremony. That is Honorable Dr. William Ruto. Well, that is what we have so far, but I'm still with my guests. I've released Honorable Sosion, but I'm with my guests here, Gilbert Gisore and Chris Owala, joining us today. Now, as we bring this conversation to a different level, devolution has had its own challenges. Let me bring in corruption. How has corruption played a role in this? And is it possible for devolution to still succeed regardless of the level of corruption that we are at as a country? Chris.
Thank you, Ram. I want just to, before we get to the corruption, looking at I reiterate what has been shared by my friend here, Gedson, that devolution is the best thing that ever happened to this nation. And we realize that the way the resources are being distributed is on political angle. And it's where people are saying you must be a shareholder to have your shares. I think devolution has cushioned that. And I think one of the objectives of devolution is to promote equity and also to make sure that inclusivity areas that were marginalized are come up. And I think that's the best thing that ever happened to this nation. But all said and done, we need to look at what are the threats to devolution. The threat to devolution is not only corruption. The biggest threat to devolution, one, is the lack of effective public participation. If people don't participate well in their destiny, in determining their self-governance, then devolution might not succeed the way it's supposed to succeed. Two, if we have weak oversight institutions, then devolution might not deliver to Kenyans the way it's supposed to deliver. 3, if you have independent organization entities like CRA, which are supposed to guide on the sources to the counties, their work still remain at recommending, then devolution is going to be threatened. 4, if we don't have a goodwill from national government to county government to effectively transfer resources, adequate resources, because you realize that even this money we are talking about, they are saying county has received money, it's not their fair share. Remember, we need to use the last audited account. Remember, in this country, audits are delayed deliberately so that the county don't get their fair share. So I think we also need to relook at that. Again, one of the challenges that we are facing with devolution that need to be strengthened, our assemblies have stopped doing their role. We need to come back and say, what is the role of the assemblies? What are they supposed to do? But for now, assemblies are used just as an institution I don't think they are doing what they're supposed to do. And overall, if you look at, there's a component here, budget making process. We don't align our budget, our resources to our budget documents. And this now brings another killer sword, which is in devolution, the so-called supplementary budget. Supplementary budget is supposed to be a tool for implementing budget, not the main budget. And that we realize people go out, present their issues in the budget, present their concerns, but after the budget has been passed, the county start the process of supplementary. To the extent that he's a wakili, he tell you that the budget loses the character. If the budget loses the character, you're supposed to go back to public again to get their consent, because what they intended to achieve is deviated. If you have a red uniform you are supposed to wear, and at the end of it you have black, you have yellow, patched into it, it's no longer red. So how do we work with the national government and other institutions to make sure that we protect the devolution by making sure also that the supplementary budget is not abused? But as things stand today, supplementary budget is abused. A lot of citizens are disconnected with their government. But also very important, as I conclude this, is that as we engage in all this engagement, what is the work of ethics and corruption? What is the work of a DCI? And that's what brings us to the point, your question you're asking, the role of corruption. I work on issues of asset recovery. I can tell you there are a lot of buildings that have been, people still here and build here, people still in Kisii and build in Kisumu, people still in Migori build in Kisii, and these resources are denying what they are stealing and investing for their own growth is denying people services like healthcare. And if you look at, again, in some countries where you realize that assembly passes their budget, the executive passes their budget, but it's the executive that finance assembly in their tours.
I would like us to take a break on that particular note, a short commercial break, and then we'll be back in a bit. What are some of the challenges concerning that affect devolution? This is Good Morning Kenya. Let's take a short break. We'll be back in a bit.
Kwa majina naitwa Beatrice Chebet, silver medalist, World Championship 2021, Commonwealth Games, 5,000 meters, gold medalist, World Cross Country champion in Bathurst, 2023. So now I'm focused on World Championship. God willing, I'm going to come with a medal.
Yawi hayawi mwishowe huwa. Kituo chako unachokienzi cha Minto FM kinatimiza miaka 12 tangu kilipoanza. Ili kuadhimisha siku hii, tunawaalika mashabiki wetu kujumuika nasi katika msururu wa roadshow utakaofanyika ndani ya kaunti ya Nyamira. Kutakuwa na burudani na vichekesho. Alhamisi tarehe 17 mwezi huu wa Agosti, msafara wa Minto FM utaanzia Kijauri, Keroka, Rigoma, Kemera, Kebirigo na kumalizia siku Nyaramba. Ijumaa tarehe 18 msafara huu utaanzia Ekerenyo, Ikonge, Nyamusi, Mawawa, Miruka, Nyamaya na kumalizia Nyabite. Jumamosi tarehe 19 tutatamatisha maadhimisho yetu kwa ibada ya shukrani katika kanisa la Nyamira Central SDA kuanzia saa 3 asubuhi. Njoo ukutane na watangazaji wako unaowaenzi. Minto ata 12 Gusi Neaito.
Mimi ni Shamsa, mke wa Zito. Zito aliniambia kuwa hana mke, mimi sitaki kujua.
Kiza Jamal. Shamsa is my wife. Achana naye. Sawa.
Zito kufa kuzikana.
Zuri. Zuri.
She hasn't just taken this title, she's absolutely obliterated the whole field. 352.96.
It's a big stage, big names and big expectations, and a massive celebration of athleticism. More than 2,000 athletes from over 200 countries will compete in 49 events. Drawing inspiration from past memorable outings, Team Kenya is looking ahead for a remarkable feat in the forthcoming World Athletics Championship in Budapest, Hungary in Central Europe. Witness the wonders from Budapest, Hungary on 19th through to the 27th of August, live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1. KBC Channel 1, the true sports partner.
Ingo FM fans in Kakamega, are you ready? Ingo FM and Y254 have organized a Meet the Fans tour on 25th and 26th August 2023. On Friday, 25th August, join us at Butere Boys High School, where the Baraza Foundation has organized sports activities including a football match pitting Kakamega Homeboys versus Butere combined. In the evening, join us as we witness the crowning of Mr. and Miss Butere live from Charlie 037 Resort. These events will be covered by Y254 and Ingo FM. On Saturday, 26th August, our team shall visit Noah Yale Children's Home, where we shall donate dignity packs. And the climax of our Kakamega tour will be the launch of Ingo FM Mashabi Club at Bondeni Primary School. Don't miss out. All are welcome.
All right, we now want to wrap it up in a few. Now, let's just finish this conversation about devolution, particularly now. It has been there for now 10 years. What are the challenges that we have faced as a country right here? When you talk about 10 years of devolution, how far have we come? Today we are having the 8th Devolution Conference taking place in Eldoret in Uasin Gishu County. We shall be heading over there a bit later on during the day as we proceed with this conversation. But now let's bring it to you, Gibson. Before we took that break, Chris had highlighted a few of the challenges that we are facing as a country, things that make devolution to be problematic. Do you agree with the highlights that he has given? And what's your take in regards to the challenges that we are facing as a country in achieving the devolution?
Thank you, Ram, again. Chris has really put in the spanner in the works, and what he has said is actually true. We have some issues of leadership. We have some issues to deal with governance, and I highlighted this earlier, where I said that some of these things really go to the core of devolution. Mm-hmm. Devolution is a very beautiful thing. It's a very beautiful baby. Yes. Let's just not mismanage this baby, because we need to safeguard it and shepherd it to a level that it grows to be what it is that we want it to be. Some of the issues which I think are very even critical, even at the African Union level. Somebody, while they were on, somebody did mention about the Maputo Declaration, which talks about 10%, which is supposed to go into issues of agriculture. So if we can be able to inculcate, and you know, Kenya is a signatory, if we can be able to implement that, because agriculture is a dual function now, if we can be able to ensure that these funds actually go to agriculture in the counties, and to ensure that the counties actually do it. Counties are running as devolved units, which are making their own decisions, which are not in line or in tandem with the government philosophy. That is, I think, where we miss it. If we could be able to, if I may suggest, be having something like a leadership training institute for governors. Immediately they take over power. We take them through training so that they understand government policy and agenda. Some of these people come from private sector. Some of them are businessmen. Some of them are half-schooled. Some of them are very corrupt to the core. So they continue implementing their own agendas, which are not necessarily in tandem or with what is supposed to be done. Some of them do not understand devolution. Because if we have to move from where we are to the next level, the way China has done, the way South Korea has done, we need to have a proper training institution which instills issues of governance, issues of leadership, issues of public policy to these governors, so that they can understand what is the philosophy of government, what is the philosophy of devolution, what is it which is expected out of them. Once we have done this, and then we'll be able to devolve these monies which they need to implement the same. And then we'll be able to have proper checks and balances. We have cried here or talked about the issue of county assemblies not being accountable, being very weak to check the governor. Being the executive in the counties is funding all the trips for the MCAs. So if somebody is, you will only play to the side of where your bread is buttered. So we need to separate these two things. The senators do not have an oversight fund to actually oversight the governors. When they summon a governor, he feels larger than life. He hardly comes or takes his time to come. When he comes, he answers what he feels he should be able to answer. Some of these reports should be able to be cascaded and taken to the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, which should be able to investigate and properly be able to harass some of the fellas who have pilfered government funds. Let me also bring in the issue of the Abuja Declaration about health, which is also another devolved function. These are declarations at the African Union front. These are some of the things we should be able to be looking at, ensuring that devolution actually works in terms of health. Okay. We are going to commend some of the counties which have come up with the infrastructures, but infrastructure in terms of health is not everything. We need the soft services of actually providing the medical services in terms of employment, human resources, and the medicines being available. If we can be able to manage some of these things, we can be able to achieve the two critical areas of agriculture and of course health. If we be able to tackle these issues, we can be able to come to salvage whatever is left of devolution. All right. Let me highlight also something very small, that for devolution to actually work, some of the countries in Africa, in the African front, let me stick to the African front, they embraced either federalism or aspects of devolution which we are embracing. The best country to pick from much as I know the best in Africa, Nigeria, which is now the largest economy. embraced this long time ago when it went the state's way. And devolution has been. South Africa has also done the same. And some of the provinces, especially in South Africa, have a bigger economy than the country Kenya.
Chris?
Okay. Thanks a lot, Ram. I think we need to protect devolution at all cost. Remember, not everybody that is in devolution wanted devolution. If you look at the history of devolution, and you look at, I want to share with Garrison here that at independence we had something akin to devolution. And remember, we got in the independence with what we call the KADU constitution, but KANU that got in the power. The Majimbo was something akin to devolution, but it was killed. If you look at 2010, when we got in this devolution, the people who wanted devolution never got into the office. The people who didn't want devolution got into the office. So devolution has been under threat ever since. And that's why we are saying at all times we need to protect devolution. That's why we need to fight corruption. But more importantly, it's the role of national government to capacity build counties. They should not run away from that. Two, the golden rule to make sure that devolution work. One, we need to proper costing of the devolved function. We need to transfer resources at the right time to the counties. Three, we need to make sure that that resource, the way it transferred, if it's for a particular function, it must be ring-fenced for that function. Then ethics and corruption and other agencies must also do their role. And last but not least, citizens should be at the center of the service delivery.
All right.
Thank you
so much. Wow, gentlemen. Oh, that has been a hot one. Thank you so much for coming. And I believe it is on that note that we'll bring this conversation to a close right here on Good Morning Kenya. As you can see on your screen, we are proud Kenyans because we celebrate 10 years of devolution. Those are live images coming in from Eldoret Sports Club in Eldoret, Uasin Gishu County, where we're having the 8th Devolution Conference taking place. The president is expected to officially open it, and we expect to have over 15,000 guests coming your way. Our colleagues are also on the ground. We shall be linking up with them as we proceed with the day. Simon Achola, Kamche Menza, Nancy Okware are on the ground. Remember, this live production could not be successful without the producers, Maurice and Joanne Mwikali. My name is Ram Maguko. It has been a pleasure being part of your morning. Thank you so much for choosing KBC Channel 1. 10 years of devolution. May God bless Kenya. Have a fantastic day.
Hospitality industry is majorly dominated by people who have the ability to speak. But this is a different case with Palette Cafe, which is a restaurant located in Lavington, Nairobi, that is giving priority to persons who have hearing impairment. Join me, Beatrice Kageha, as you get to learn more about how this special group of people give customers satisfaction. According to the data from a report released in 2022 by International Labour Organization, the rate of unemployment for persons abled differently stood at 7.6% as compared to 6% for the other people. The high rate of unemployment, especially for persons abled differently, is the reason that prompted Faisal Hussein to start Palette Cafe. The restaurant, which has been operational since the 20th of January 2019, has attracted people from all walks of life. Palette Cafe is not only known for its serenity, but is also well known because of the uniqueness of its employees, as it has been offering employment opportunities to persons living with hearing impairment. Susan Watkins is the operations manager at Palette Cafe, a position she has held since the restaurant began. Susan talks to us on the inspiration behind starting Palette Cafe.
Our director wanted to have a place that is inclusive of everyone. a place where every customer feels welcome and every member of staff feels welcome. So he decided on the hearing impaired. First of all, we got a lady who is a sign language interpreter who brought us the first batch of 4 that we started with. She's even the one who was helping in the interviews because I didn't know sign language. And from there, I trained them, they trained me, and here we are.
According to Susan, when some people heard about the idea of hiring hearing impaired persons to work in a restaurant, they were doubtful about their efficiency.
People were a bit skeptical. They didn't see how they would deal with a waiter who cannot hear or talk. But it has worked. And they reach out to you. If you talk and they don't talk, they don't hear, they reach out to you. And they always have a pen and a note and a paper. So it works. Proper training. We train them well, whether they're in the kitchen or outside on the floor. Because on the floor especially, they're all hearing impaired, the waiters. So we give them good training. And they're very keen. They're much more keen than you and I.
Edward Gitao is the assistant manager at Palette Cafe. His search for greener pastures landed him at the cafe, and later on, due to his hard work, he got promoted to his current position. He is partially deaf, a condition he developed in 2009.
I was not born deaf. Yeah, I was born just like normal people. Then I was married in 2009 during post-election violence. Yeah, post-election violence had started happening 2007 to 2008, and then it ended in 2009. I already lost my hearing. Yeah, because of short term, that is what I call it. I was taken to the hospital. They had no cure. So I accepted myself. My dad taught me how to do the pleading. Yeah, then I proceed from there. I say that is fine. I can't do the pleading. Okay, my dad is deaf. My sister is deaf. I am deaf. We are 3 or 5. It is not a generation. No. My sister was not born deaf. She lost her hearing after I lost. Yeah, and she was because of water. Water was going through her ear, then it crosses her eardrums. So she cannot hear sounds. But she accepted myself. I taught her how to do the pleading. Just like how my dad made. That is fine. My dad was hearing and had an accident. It is a long story. Yeah, from there, I went to school. Schooling was fun. It was bad, but I proceeded so much as I know my videos. Then I completed my primary school, I went to high school. It was mixed with the people, the young people. I completed my study, I joined the forces, I was from there, I started doing hostel.
Edwin Mugo is a waiter at Palette Cafe. Unlike Edward, Edwin lost his hearing ability completely, but this does not hinder him from interacting with other people and the delivery of quality services to his customers.
I used to work with the Door International for the Deaf Africa. I worked as a cleaner and as a driver. And then I felt that the pay was not fair, so I wanted some salary increment. I decided to drop out of the job. So I tried staying at home for 2 years. And then I did applications online to this place. I was successful and I was called to come and work here. Yes, I went to school and primary, Kerugea School for the Deaf. And then I continued 2006. I finished and moved to high school. With the deaf and hearing, it was an integrated school, but the deaf were more. That was 1994, yeah. When I finished high school, then I passed. I moved to high school in 2006 to 2010. When I came here, from 2019, I started as an attaché. I worked here, and I've been patient along. I've been working since then, and my health is well. I have 4 years working experience here.
Sumananjali is a regular client at Palit Cafe. She speaks to us about her experience at the cafe.
People with different abilities is something that we have not been great at as employers. And I do believe that as individuals, we all have our strengths. Physical challenge shouldn't be a deterrent for employers not to hire people. If Pellet Cafe has grown manifold, it started with one and it has gone to Gigiri, to Diani, to all places, and I'm sure they are going to other, if this is the way it has to go, it'll probably go into other countries. So clearly it shows that the physical challenge hasn't stopped Pellet Cafe or hasn't hindered Pellet Cafe from becoming a non-profitable entity. And that is a good enough reason for why employers should feel motivated to include more diverse and also physically challenged people into the employment opportunities.
Despite the fact that many employers shun away from hiring the persons who are abled differently, Susan Watkins has embraced the opportunity of working with them.
Maybe the employer feels he would have to go to an extra expense to accommodate them. But you don't have to go to any extra expense to accommodate the hearing impaired. No. It's very easy to work with them, and there was actually nothing new that we had to put in place because of them. We work normally. We didn't have to improvise anything because of them.
Looking for a job for one employer to another, but no one liked me because I think they're afraid of my deafness or something like that. And they're more afraid because if they employed somebody with a disability, how are they going to communicate to that person? That they say to my face. But working here at Palette Cave, I felt it was very normal. And I started communicating with my boss. Until now, we are able to communicate well with persons with disabilities. What I find it to be interesting is Palette Cafe has been able to open other branches, 4 other branches, and employ people with disabilities. Why? Because they saw that we have the capabilities of working well and finishing our task well. So from here, right now, we have 3 more.
As a country, if that is something that you were trying to ask, I think there are, policies in place to make sure that there are more safe spaces for people to get a higher.
어디 갔다 오는 겁니까?
깜짝이야.
너 정체가 뭐야? 누가 지시했어?
She hasn't just taken this title, she's absolutely obliterated.